Hey everybody, Roll the Lines UK, Matt and Ash, joined by a guest from the Purple People podcast, Kyle. We're getting set up here. The audio pod will go live in just a sec, but Kyle, thank you for coming on at such short notice. How are you?
I'm great, sir. Gentlemen, thank you for having me on. What a pleasant surprise to check the messages. I apologize to the UK fan base. I do have a Southern accent. I am from the South in the United States, where we talk like this and we like sweet tea, and it's just God bless you and all that. I've tried to get rid of that over the years, but I'm excited to talk football, and I will be the first, like I said before, to say I keep it very friendly. I keep it very real. Um, I am very pleasantly surprised by the Lions this year. All the hype that was coming in, it's hard to live up to. And you guys have answered the bell. You had maybe a stinker here too, but you're leading the North. You're got almost a lock for the playoffs now. And
Uh, yeah, hopefully. I mean, if the Rams lose tonight, then it is a lock. But I will not have division winning chat until we've beaten you once, because if you beat us twice, we're in real trouble. So
right.
you gotta get one. But we were just talking before we went live about the idea of some of your fans wanting to promote your DC to head coach, and I was just gonna say before we went live that we have a very similar experience. We were just talking about Ben Johnson before, and how a lot of people are like, we can't afford to lose Ben, so why don't we just promote him to head coach? I know we like Dan, but it's not worth losing Ben. And you have a very similar thing with your DC.
So this is great. I'm glad you set it up this way, because the way I look at it is, and what I've tried to do as a fan over the years is really find the little nuances of things we don't see as common fans. And I will tell you, the word culture gets thrown around in the NFL a lot, but the attitude and the culture that it comes, with the head coach and what he brings in the building means a lot. I like Dan Campbell because he's a player's coach. He's a guy's guy. He played the game much like my coach was a quarterback. I don't remember what position Dan Campbell played, but he was a player, and he looks and sounds like a hoorah defensive guy. But I'll give you two examples. Number one, Mike Zimmer used to coach the Vikings, and I liked him a lot because the defense was always very good. But he didn't have an actual meeting with Kirk Cousins until year five, and
What?
he's in year six. They didn't like each other, and I'm sitting here thinking, with the way the NFL goes, could you imagine Andy Reid not talking to Patrick Mahomes or Zach Taylor not talking to Joe Burrow? It's just not a thing that you can afford to do.
Well,
So
never
what
mind that. It's like
I
your centre not liking your quarterback. Like, on some level, they have to get on.
a great analogy. That's perfect comparison. It's you have to have the conversation. You might not like the person individually, but when we get to work, you got to make that Brady and Belichick kind of relationship do the thing on the field. Um, I don't know. I like Brian Flores, but I take people's track record and I take the best thing they've ever done and the worst thing they've ever done, and I get rid of it. And I stole that from a very famous guy here in America, Colin Cowherd. Don't like him. He's a little bit older than our generation. He's kind of a boomer, but he makes good points sometimes. And for Matt Ryan or Cam Newton, take away the MVP season, take away the worst. What does the bulk tell you? The bulk will tell me Brian Flores is mainly a defensive guy. He's not going to talk to the quarterback. And I watched what happened when he had Tua as a rookie. He didn't have Tyreek Hill. That's fine. That's a good point. But he didn't look good. And I need the quarterback to look good. You have to have a good coach and a good quarterback, or you're not going to win much at all. And I can't believe, to sum this up, because I'm being long-winded, I cannot believe some Viking fans are ready to throw Kevin O'Connell out. He's 20-11 in 2 seasons. And mind you, we're playing with backups. The moment that Kirk tore his Achilles, the season was washed. You don't have expectations because you don't know what you're going to get. The fact that they're the 6th seed right now, it's kind of incredible. Even though there's been some very weird decisions and poor games, we're still in it.
Yeah, it's been a nuts season. We're just waiting for Ryan Farden to come in, everybody. So we're hanging on for him. I did say 7:30, but never mind. Hey to everyone in the chat, Mike the Marine, GA2 Skip, Brent DeWitt, Frank Ribble, and all the rest of you guys in there. If you want to shout out, come say hi before we go live on the audio show. If you want to ask Kyle a question, just make sure to at the channel so that I see it. Yeah, so format of the show, we're gonna go. There's a couple of signings that the Lions have made that are really low key that we'll cover. Then couple of bits on the Vikings and the game in general, talking high level stuff, then offense, defense, and then matchup. basically. So it's fairly formulaic, but I think it works quite well. Oh, come on, Ryan. But anyway, man. Frank says, do you want Kirk back next year? I mean, it's a good discussion point for the actual pod, but briefly.
Yes, I do, and I'll tell you why. I think here's what my dream scenario would be. I'm from the state of North Carolina here in the United States. I want the North Carolina quarterback, Drake May. You have to give up a lot for a quarterback now, but I think it would be the perfect time. Give Kirk a 2-year deal. Make sure you can get out of the second year. Let him have his hoorah comeback season. I think he'll be great. I think him and Kevin O'Connell really get along well. You can have the protege watch from the master at least one season. And to me, I don't like rushing a rookie quarterback in. I know it's the new hot thing to do. I don't like it at all. I look at Bryce Young in Carolina. He should have sat this year, and they should have started Andy Dalton. So bring Kirk back for at a minimum of 1, maybe 2 at the most. He's getting a little bit older. Draft a rookie in the first or second round and see what happens and let him learn. But I do want Kirk back. I like him, and I don't want him to go out with his last play being a torn Achilles in a Vikings uniform.
Yeah, as much as are you going to say you like that, Ash?
I kind of do. Like, as you can put, like, I love, like, I've been saying it's been at least a couple of months now. I've been saying Drake May is my QB1 in this class. It's close, but he's my QB1. That would work so well for him, and that pains me. Not only as a Lions fan, but obviously, as you can probably tell in the background, I'm also a Florida State fan. So Drake May has been sort of boogeyman for me for the past couple of years. The pain of maybe having him come over and just keep your offense turning over.
We can talk Florida State later too, man. We can talk about that if you think it was travesty. But here's a wild card for whoever asked that. I'll tell you if it doesn't. Here's my really big shot in the dark. Last year they said maybe Kyler Murray would come with a new coach. He's mobile, he's young, whatever. If Chicago moves on from Justin Fields, I wouldn't hate it, because if you can hone in on this kid's accuracy, man, you think about him and Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson, it would be like the Ravens, only we would have better pass catchers. I don't think that'll happen. I highly doubt they're going to be dumb enough to trade in the division, but I don't know. That's my super dark horse wild card kind of deal. I would love to see that, but I like Drake May. I'm biased. I'm a North Carolina fan. We'll see. They'd have to give up the house for him. They'd have to give up 3 first-round picks. I just don't see our general manager doing that. He's more of a value versus an overspender kind of guy so far. So I don't think that'll happen.
I mean, we're very familiar with Kwesi right now. Yeah. Like, we know him. So the other big question has just been asked by Brent. Do you think that Danielle Hunter is re-signing? Like the MVPs of your team on one side and the other. So
I don't think we can afford him. I said on my show recently, the dream scenario would be to have him back. His highest sack total for one season was 14.5. He's already beat that, and we have 3 games left. He's at 15.5 on the year. Brian Flores has brought out gems and diamonds in the rough out of some of these players. And last year we had Ed Donatel. It played the prevent defense. I called him Ed Donashell for shell coverage, and it was bad. And he was
awful.
You guys, we were fighting for last, and I think you guys won 32nd in the league. We got 31st, and we're top 5 this year in some categories. I say this because we had a couple shows where we were like, stop lining up the defensive end in coverage. Stop it. Let him get his knuckles in the ground, do what he does. And if you guys are familiar with Vikings history, I couldn't believe this. Danielle Hunter this past weekend passed Jared Allen, the Hall of Famer, in franchise sacks. So he's like 4th on our – it's incredible. He's not going to come back. We can't afford him. I really hate it. He's been on some team-friendly deals for the last couple of times he's been signed. I would love to have him back because when he's healthy, man, he's a wrecking ball. He doesn't get enough love from the national media, you know?
He really doesn't. Second in the NFL in sacks, and – I mean, he's achieved that despite having like significant mental health problems, missing a long time with you guys. I think he was in and out because he couldn't hack it for a while, and then comes back and he's like this. I mean, I can't remember how long ago that was. Maybe Ash, you have a better memory than me on that.
I think it was last year.
Was it okay?
2-3 years ago? Yeah.
It was the mental health stuff. I think you're thinking of Everson Griffin.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Daniil, unfortunately, this is a fun memory for Vikings fans. I say that sarcastically. When Mike Zimmer said he had a minor tweak and then he was out for the season because he had to have neck surgery, he tore his pec a couple of years ago. The dude shred. He looks like a Greek god.
He does.
So I'm sure everything probably hurts when he goes full speed. But yeah, he's had two injuries, but man, he's underpaid for what he was. His agent, we kind of got a team friendly deal. The first round, it's a third round pick.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a monster. He's going to have 100 sacks by the end of next year. So I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, so he's going to get 20 mil, maybe.
I think that's what they're going to ask for. I think what they want is 15 to 17. I'm thinking a ballpark here, but they'll ask for 20, and they ask for a little more, and then they negotiate to the middle. I think it's going to be somewhere around there, especially if he ends up, leading the league in sacks or is number 2. You got to think this is an era with Myles Garrett and T.J. Watt. Aiden Hutchinson's out there doing his thing. So if you're out here making, splash plays, he's going to get paid. He deserves it. He's on, I think he's 28, 29. So he's got one more big contract before he'll have to ring chase eventually.
Okay, we've waited long enough for Ryan, so I've just said to him, come on when you can. I don't know what's happening with him, but we will crack on with this. So, give me a second.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 242. Ash, come on, mate. What's the Mattison? I hate you. My name is Matthew Turner, alongside Ashley Soden, and with special guests from the Purple People podcast, Kyle Smith. Kyle, how you doing, man?
I'm great. Thank you guys again for having me on. This is fun. Not only to talk about the Lions and the Vikings, if all goes how I hope it does, we're going to see each other 3 out of the next 4 weeks. But yeah, I'm honored to be on, and it's cool to have the UK representing. It's so fun. I really want to know what drew you guys to the Detroit Lions, if you have ties in any special way. And I'm just excited to be here, man. Thank you for the invite.
Of course. Ash, how you doing, mate?
I'm all right. Bit windy outside. It feels like we're in Chicago already. We're a couple of months early from our visit there, but at least it's a little taste of what it could be like.
We're going to get onto the preamble in just a minute. Ash, why don't you just address Kyle's question on the why Lions? Because I know that it's the favourite question of all Americans as to what the hell are you doing here? What brought you to the Lions, man?
So for me, well, I first got into the NFL, 11 years ago now. Me and some of my friends at school found out about this thing called Madden Mobile, started doing that, started doing the fantasy football. And for me, I got to Detroit because the place I'm from, Birmingham, is kind of like Detroit, former industrial heartland, got a rough reputation from everyone else when actually it's quite a beautiful city. Plus, there's some connections between the sports teams as well. So my favourite team over Aston Villa, lion on the logo, great history, but fallen on some hard times, has had good players that maybe get underappreciated because they've been playing for such a team. So yeah, it's just that sort of marriage of love. Started watching, obviously this was tail end of Kelvin being here, so having him, Stafford, Golden Tate, all these good players, and then certain things happened in the playoffs, and then that sold it to me. That sort of heartbreak I felt then felt a bit familiar, and then it was love from there on out.
Invoking the bloody Cowboys game. We're never going to rid ourselves of that unless we can have one go our way like that. I can imagine in round 1, if we get there, us being run close by a Matthew Stafford Rams team. And that would feel horrific. Kyle, what about you? I know that you're not from Minnesota.
Oh, correct. I was born in 88. I'm 35 years old. I started watching football around my 8th or 9th year. I remember Brett Favre on the Packers. I liked the player. I didn't really associate teams that much. I remember watching the really historic and fun Super Bowl where the Packers beat the Patriots. I remember rooting for him the next year, getting beat by the Broncos, and then kind of fizzled out. I did other sports growing up. I'm a wrestler. I'm a UFC guy. I skateboarded in high school. When I joined the military here, everyone has just like this. They have the logo of whatever they love, wherever they're from. And I didn't have anything like that. And I remember one of my bunkmates said, "You don't like football?" I like football. So when I finally embraced everything that was going down, Brett Favre was making the second decision to go from the New York Jets to somewhere else. And I had heard about a running back named Adrian Peterson that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed Jared Allen, the defensive end, the crazy roping cowboy. And when Brett Favre signed with the Vikings, something spoke to me to follow that team. And I really enjoyed it. And I hate myself for it now because I could have watched Green Bay win a Super Bowl and dominate the North forever. I could have picked any other team, but they did not have a Super Bowl. And I said, you know what? You can never call me a bandwagon fan. And they had a miracle year in 2009. I hate the New Orleans Saints for that, trying to kill him on the field. I've seen them shank field goals in the playoffs in the frigid cold. I've seen the Eagles run through them. I've been through the gauntlet of highs and lows, but I will give my credit to Brett Favre, Adrian Peterson, and Jared Allen. I've been stuck with them ever since 2009, and I haven't looked back.
I've been following football since about as long as you then in 2009. So Lions drafted Stafford number 1 overall, started playing Madden. Detroit become the automatic team because they want you to play with the number 1 overall pick. Fell in love with the guy, fell in love with the team. The school team that I used to play for played in the same colours, basically. So I was like, okay, well, that kind of works. And then you find out more about the city and, you know, there's such cool stuff about Detroit in terms of its history and its place in the world and Motor City
Absolutely.
and Motown and Eminem and whatever. So, like, there's loads of reasons to love Detroit. And then the football has been exciting, even though it's been bad. Like, heartbreak and comeback wins and, you know, like Stafford in 2016, 8 comeback wins in this season, which was the most of all time. Like, we're used to, like, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat sometimes, and that's just like, it gets the heart pumping, and I love that. So that's me. We're going to crack on with the show. Of course, we're doing Lions at Vikings. Just going to give you guys the preamble as we always do. We have got our Discord channel, which is going strong. So I'm going to put a link in the live chat right now. Come and join us. It's a great place to be all the way through the week. College Football Podcast went up on the audio pod yesterday. It was Anne and Ryan talking bowl game predictions part 2. I don't actually know what else they talked about because they're not here to say about it. Ash, have you listened to it yet?
Yeah, I've listened to most of it. So they also discussed a bit of Erling signing day, as much as that pains me as an FSU fan, because we had some paid
2
flips.
5-star blip. Yikes. 2?
Well, yeah, 2, and then we nearly got a third one, but he said, if I heard say, yeah, so it's general stuff, a bit of head coaching stuff as well, and then I think they dipped a bit into obviously discussing a few of the Senior Bowl and that rosters, because a few of the big players have started doing that and opting out of bowl games. So it's going to be a good watch, even though it's painful for me, as it always is, because certain events of the past month.
Yeah. The quicker we get off college football and get into the draft for you in that regard, the better, I guess. Don't forget to like the show, sub to the podcast, all that good stuff, and add Lions Nation Unite on their Facebook group. It's Herman Moore's project to bring the best in content creators together, including us and Dose of Dion and Micro Mike and all those good guys. So go and join them there. And we are Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized. There's a tip jar down below in the YouTube chat. So if you want to show some love that way, then please do. There's also a feedback form down there as well. And our merch store is now live. It's maybe a bit too late for Christmas, but there's never a bad time to give a gift to someone. So go and have a look. Quick bit of news before we get on to the Vikings, Ash, is that the Lions have signed cornerback Craig James to the practice squad and have correspondingly released the offensive lineman Michael Schofield. You know, I mean, at least something about Craig James.
Yeah, so cornerback hasn't played that many games. I think most of his starts have been in Philadelphia, where he knows our special teams coordinator, Dave Fipper, obviously used to be their special teams guy. Mostly plays as a gunner, which suggests that this is probably tied to the Jerry Jacobs injury on Sunday. Obviously got benched. He was basically just put back onto your special teams. Hurt his hamstring at some point during the game. Can't remember exactly when. Hasn't returned to practice. So this maybe suggests that this might be a season ender for Jerry, which is unfortunate with him entering a contract year and having a relatively down season in a way, in terms of perception, when in reality actually hasn't been that bad. But it's a veteran signing. Bit unfortunate for Michael Schofield, who's probably brought in as O-line depth. when we're having our injury issues. But now, since they're all back healthy, well, relatively healthy as they could be at this point in the season, this is just a corresponding move just to shore up the cornerback depth. As we get a bit thinner, we get a bit closer to the nightmare scenario of Will Harris taking cornerback snaps again.
No, no, please no. Let's get on with the Vikings preview, and we're going to start, as we always do, with the team itself. We're going to have a look at the betting, the injuries, the depth chart. We're going to move on to the offense, defense, and then the matchup in particular. So the Vikings come in at 7-7, so they're 500 at the moment. They have an expected number of wins per Pro Football Reference of 7.6, so slightly under expectation. Their season so far started off badly with the losses versus Tampa Bay, at Philadelphia, and versus the Chargers. They did get a win against Carolina, but then another loss to Kansas City, a win against Chicago, San Francisco, Green Bay, Atlanta, New Orleans, a loss against Denver, Chicago, and then a win at Vegas, and a loss most recently, heartbreakingly, against Cincinnati. The betting for this game, Lions are 7-10 favourites, so that makes it about -180. The Vikings 29-20, which is plus 140, 150, something like that. Lions are 3-point favourites on the spread, which makes the over-under 47 points. On the injury report, nothing out yet for Thursday, but for the Lions, Jerry Jacobs and Brock Wright did not practice. Limited, we have Derek Barnes, Jason Kabinda, CJ Gardner-Johnson, who, will he get activated? God only knows. Levi Onwuzurike and Penei Sewell, as well as Frank Ragnow, having his weekly appearance on the report for knee, back, and toe injury, respectively. The Vikings had plenty of players who did not practice yesterday. Danielle Hunter, Alexander Mattison, Byron Murphy, Jalen Naylor, Brian O'Neill, and Harrison Phillips, as well as limited Jonathan Bullard and Harrison Phillips, and in full practice was Jordan Hicks. On IR, of course, the Vikings also have quarterback Kirk Cousins, defensive end Marcus Davenport, linebacker Jordan Hicks, and the running back Cam Akers. I'll go into the depth chart in just a moment, but Kyle, it has been a tumultuous season, because even when you had Kirk Cousins, it wasn't the best start, and you really pulled it back. Then he goes down, and you're not going away quietly.
Yeah, I like that. I will say, and I said predicting on our channel earlier this year, the best signing of the offseason was Brian Flores. Unfortunately, because we don't play starters anymore in the preseason, it takes you a few games to warm up. With the addition of a 17th game now, you can afford to start 0-3 and still be in the thick of the playoffs like the Vikings have proven this year. Heartbreaking loss to Philadelphia. They seem to be the new big brother bully in the NFC. I hate losing to them. That town, for as nice and as classy as I can say it, I do not like the fans of that city. They make everything very hard to enjoy because they're very nasty towards other fans. I have toured quite a few stadiums in the NFL now, and I refuse to be a target there. So I'll get off my soapbox. For the Vikings, Brian Flores has turned the defense that was overall around 31 last year to a top 10 unit. Always making great plays. I think the nicest thing that he's done is taken the players that he's given and pulled the most out of them. You guys never heard of Josh Metellus until this year. A. Caleb Evans was having a not so good year.
We
year.
knew of Josh Metellus. Don't you worry about it. Yeah. He was a good, special guy, but he's made him a big deal.
He is, and I said in the beginning of the season when he was signed to a multi-year deal, okay, let's see how this turns out. He's been Mr. Everywhere, literally every position on the field this year. Great special teamer. Now he's balling. Brian Flores has pulled the best out of everyone. Danielle Hunter's having a career year. Harrison Smith looks like Harrison Smith of old. Byron Murphy's been a great addition in free agency, but overall, I told you guys before we started, when Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles, that we should as Viking fans have curbed any expectation for the rest of the year. Nick Mullins doesn't strike fear in the heart of anyone. Say what you will about Kirk, he may be the corny white guy who's just a family-oriented guy, but he's a damn good quarterback, and I don't see much difference between him and Jared Goff. I put them in the same tier. Their play is a little different, but I like both of them. I think the rotation of quarterbacks and having 4 different quarterbacks start this year was not ideal. I don't think our coach should be fired like some of the Viking fans think. But overall, to be the number 6 out of 7 seed, rotating through quarterbacks and playing with backups, and then Justin Jefferson being gone for 7 games, I think, something close to that, to go on a tear like they did, I think it's crazy that they're even considered. This could have easily been a washed season, but if they can win 2 out of the last 3, which I'm predicting they will, I think we'll be all right. I don't care if we get loose to the Lions twice. I just want to beat the Packers one more time because, they are the enemy. I do like our advantage at home. I think we will win one of the Detroit games and beat the Packers. I think we're a better team than they are, but I can't believe they're still in it. They have tried to break me this year, and they've came really close. Those Denver and Chicago games back to back made me infuriated, losing when both teams only score 1 touchdown. But I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of the coach, and I don't know if Brian Flores is going to be able to stick around. He's probably going to get offers for a head coaching job. So
you'd have
enjoy it while it lasts. You guys know that problem with your offensive coordinator. He's probably gone, and you just have to move on and next man up. So
it's the way it is. Ash, what's your overriding thoughts of the Vikings this season? Because they have been, sublime and ridiculous at times.
Yeah. So I as a Jaron Hall fan, I was kind of looking forward to his 1 star. Obviously, wasn't the best. And obviously, we Lions fans, we knew a bit about Josh Dobbs. And when we saw the trade near the deadline, we were a bit like, how has this guy gone from being on our practice squad 1 year to the next year being traded for 2 teams? Because obviously the Cardinals traded for him from the Browns and you guys traded for him and starting games. And he actually looked damn good. And honestly, put a bit of the fear of God into me, because if this defense has one weakness, it's the rushing QBs. And I was a bit worried. But as you quite rightly put, you rescued the season. When Kirk went down, I thought in my head, yeah, this is it. It's now just between us and the Packers for this division. And you guys pulled it back. Hawkinson, obviously we traded him to you a couple of years ago. He's really stepped up and been a primary weapon while Jefferson was out. Jordan Addison, who I've seen the sort of the best of and the worst of in the past couple of years, obviously him being at Pearson in USC, sort of in a way falling to you in the draft, him stepping up as well, being one of the best rookie receivers in this class. You guys have really sorted out the offense, and I agree Kevin Collins should be gone. And as you said, Flores has turned that defense around. Like, I remember the Donatel shells, the umbrella coverages, the imperfect scheme to go against our offense that likes to use the underneath stuff and the in between the numbers. Flores has completely changed that, and I know obviously he might have a bit of a bad reputation with us Lions fans because he's a former Patriot guy. But damn, if someone could probably get the best of our offense, it'll be him with his blitzes, and that could cause us problems.
Yeah, last year
40-something% of the time. It's unreal. It's crazy. Not to interrupt you, but you guys are familiar with Anthony Barr. He is back on the team. He is wearing old linebacker Eric Kendrick's number, and I just thought this was funny. Just as a general football fan, as you and your fans on the show might enjoy, our guy that does all the games, Paul Allen, the guy, he's loose. That guy, really energetic, fun guy to listen to. He's sitting down with Anthony Barr. He's wearing Eric Kendrick's number. It's weird to see, but he says, "How is it playing for Brian Flores?" And he goes, "I'm going to tell you straight up, and I if you don't want me to swear, let me know. I'll edit it."
No, you go. It's a Lions show. You've got to swear.
Well, he goes, I looked on paper. I was like, is this guy fucking serious? We're not really going to do this. He's like, and then you get in practice and we do it. And he's like, I'm going to tell you what. He's like, he's a psychopath when it comes to the defense. He's like, but when you play, it's really fun to play into that. And I appreciate that as a fan, because now that I've stepped back from just watching a receiver get the ball, I watch the line and I try to see who beats the pass rush. I try to pregame whenever there's going to be a rush and be like, get rid of it, get rid of it. I watch you guys when my offense is on. I watch my defense when your offense is on, and some of the stuff that he's done this year it confuses me sitting in the stands, and I'm thinking like, oh, terrifying of these giant humans that are running around. But I just thought it was fun. I like to share it. It was a weird. It's a weird year. Yeah, Anthony Barr's back on the team. Like, I don't know what this year is. I really don't. We're not going to. Listen, this is what I know. Here's your shocking news of the day on this Lions podcast. The Vikings aren't winning the Super Bowl this year. I can tell you that. They're not doing it. You know what our Super Bowl was? Beating the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football. All I did was post a thing of Kirk dancing from last year in his chain. And I was like, does Monday night count as primetime? Because I know he doesn't win primetime games. Does this count? That was my Super Bowl this year.
I mean, we had that in week 1 with Kansas City. I mean,
I couldn't believe
very
it.
Similar.
I was so rooting for you guys. My dad's a diehard Chiefs fan, and I was like, did you really at home?
It was very
It's been a weird
sweet.
season.
It has been a weird season. Let's go through the Vikings depth chart. And at quarterback, at the moment, quarterback 1 is Nick Mullins. It's not Josh Dobbs at 2, though. It is Jaron Hall, and Josh Dobbs is the emergency third guy at the moment. I don't think that's going to change for this game, but you never know. Running backs, Ty Chandler has to be running back 1 at this point after what he's done recently. Alexander Mattison, injured. Will he play? Not sure yet, probably. Kenny Nwangu as well back there, and Cam Akers, we said, is on IR. Wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, and Brandon Powell. Tight end, we know well, TJ Hawkinson, backed up by Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, and Nick Muse. Fullback, CJ Ham, one of the better fullbacks in the league. Starting 5 on the offensive line, Christian Darrisaw. Is he better than Penei Sewell? Maybe we'll never know the answer to that question. Ash, don't give me that look. Dalton Risner, Garrett Bradbury, Ed Ingram, and Brian O'Neill. Backed up by some better names there. There's some depth in this offensive line. David Quessenberry, Blake Brandel, and Austin Schlottman, as well as Chris Reed and Hakeem Adeniji. I think that's how you say that. And then the defense, base 3-4, so 3 down linemen, Jacqueline Roy, Harrison Phillips, Jonathan Bullard, backed up by Sheldon Day, Kairis Tonga, and then James Lynch and Dean Lowry on IR. The outside linebackers are Daniel Hunter and DJ Wanham, backed up by Pat Jones, Andre Carter II, everyone's favourite supposed second-round pick from last year who fell undrafted, I think. Was he undrafted in the end?
Ivan Pace.
Ivan Pace, of course, but Andre Carter was from Army, right? He was leading in sacks in like the second season of his college career, and then
oh my goodness, I don't
went
remember.
away, yeah.
I'm a terrible fan. I don't remember.
Though I think maybe he was a 7th rounder, but like he was firmly in like day 1, day 2 conversation the year before, and then he fell a long way. And then
UDFA,
yes, everyone's favorite, including Anthony Fitzpatrick, who's not here, but our college guy, was like, you have to take this guy day 2. He's absolutely incredible. And then falls undrafted, and lo and behold, I mean, he is your 2nd highest ranked defensive player per PFF. So, you know, he's done all right, along with Troy Dye, and then backed up by Brian Asamoah, who was a 2nd round pick the year before, and Nick Vigil. Back 4 DBs are Caleb Evans, Harrison Smith, Cameron Bynum, and Byron Murphy, backed up by Mickey Blackman, Josh Metellus, Theo Jackson, and Andrew Booth Jr. And then there's Lewis Seen, former 1st round pick, as well as Jay Ward and Najee Thompson back there as well. I know with your shaking your head, you know that was an interesting pick. Andrew Booth and Lewis Seen, 2 picks that were, of course, owned by the Lions at some point in time. Special teamers, Greg Joseph is the kicker, punter is Ryan Wright, punt returner is Brandon Powell, kick returner is Kenny Nwangu, and the long snapper is Andrew DePaula. Kyle, how are you feeling overall on the starters and strength of the team? I think there's a reason why, even with QB1 down, that you guys have managed to stick around.
Yes, the first thing, we'll start with the offense. I do believe Nick Mullins gives us the best chance because he was here. He's a career backup of being in San Francisco before. I'm not sure if he's been anywhere else, but I remember him for a while being the backup in San Francisco. He learned under Kyle Shanahan, which is a great place to learn. Kevin O'Connell, Kirk Cousins, he knows the system. He's as close as you can get to Kirk between these 3 quarterbacks that we have now. The reason we've stuck around, 2 reasons. Brian Flores and all of the defense that he's pulled out the best product from, and this offensive line has been sneaky good, which was the glaring obvious need last year. It somehow has gelled. I do love Christian Darrisaw. I do like your guys' left tackle. He's very good. Dalton Risner, however you say it, was one of the funniest things for the Vikings. Twitter basically bullied our GM into signing him, and he did, and he's been amazing. He's been great. I'm not sold on Garrett Bradbury. I did meet him earlier this year at my former hometown airport where I used to work. Nice guy, and I would like a bigger, beefier center. He gets pushed around. He's a little small, undersized. I forget who we have at right guard. Ed Ingram's been out, so I forget who they've slid in there the last couple of games. Brian O'Neill was a fixture on the line. He got hurt a couple of weeks ago, and I see that he's still not practicing, but David Questberry's did a good job filling in. I have to tell you guys this because you guys can laugh at us, and for whatever you guys got out of the pick, I think it was Jameson Williams. That's great. TJ Hawkinson's about to have his first 1,000-yard season with us, and I am very, very excited. He's very close. And here's the thing. I say this, and it's going to sound backhanded, but I mean it well. I could not for the life of me believe this stat the other day. The most recent game in Cincinnati, he set a Vikings record for receptions in a season by a tight end. And then my first, the words ran out of my mouth before I could catch them to bring them back was, really? I've seen this guy drop like 15 passes this year, and he's still got 3 games left. He's going to break 1,000 yards and 100 receptions for a tight end this year, and that's incredible. For all the good that you've gotten from us and our GM that you might have swayed and robbed, we thank you very much for TJ Hawkinson because he's everyone's favorite security blanket. I knew at some point Justin Jefferson would get hurt, but I love TJ Hawkinson. Jordan Addison's been like crazy good. He's not there every week, but when he's on, it's crazy how he just shows up and has 100+ yards and 2 touchdowns. Defensively, I like the defense as a whole. They're crazy. They blitz a lot. They are ball hawks. They play very physical. I love a physical defense. You guys have a physical front seven, and I appreciate that. You can't help but wonder, and I'll shut up after this, you can't help but wonder where they would be if Kirk Cousins was still here. I think this would be the most watched, division race, whatever, in the NFL. I really, truly believe they would have won the Denver game. I know they would have beaten the Bears. We won 3-0 against the Raiders. That was the most infuriating win I've ever watched. And last week, we lose by a field goal in overtime. I can't help but think Kirk doesn't have the mistakes that Mullins makes. I really do believe that we would have double-digit wins by now, but we'll never know, and we have to see what the Mullins machine can bring up. I don't know, man. I'm happy. I'm lowering my expectations because they're backups for a reason, and I don't mean that as a sleight of hand or disrespect in any way. It's just it is what it is. If they can please find some magic – it's division. The division's always going to be a tight game. If they can find some magic, they can do well. I know the defense will show up. I just need the offense not to trip over its own 2 feet.
Ash, what do you think about the Vikings depth chart?
As you said, it's got good big names. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers in the league. TJ Hawkinson, as much as it probably pains me to admit, he's still top 5 tight end in the league. I know, obviously, we turned that sort of pick into the best rookie tight end the league has seen for a goddamn while in Sam Laporta, but Hawkinson's still pretty damn reliable. And he had the depth, like Akeem Adeniji, there's who they mentioned in the sort of breakdown, but he's someone that's played a lot of games for the Bengals. I think he's the guy that slotted in at right guard with Ingram being out. But even then, Brian O'Neill, I know he was injured last week. He has been one of the best right tackles in the league over the past couple of years. Perhaps it's a bit down year this year, but he's been up there. I know, obviously, we've got Saul, who is the best right tackle, if not the best tackle in the league this year, according to PFF. But the offensive line has really stepped up this year. It just shows how fixing that 1 weak link with that left guard spot can fix the entire line. Because I remember when Dalton got released by Denver, I was like, he's going to go somewhere, he's going to fix the line. And obviously, I know you guys traded away Ezra Cleveland to Jacksonville for peanuts, but him coming in, he's fixed that offensive line. And just because Darryl doesn't have to worry about who's next in, he can focus on just blocking his edge rusher. Bradbury's got a bit of help, as you said, because he's undersized. He's a good sort of move blocker, but in those power stuff, he can get overpowered. another game where we're going to be mourning the loss of a Lee McNeil, I feel, for us Lion fans. And in that defense, Daniel Hunter stepping up 50.5% career gain, career stuff. Ivan Pace, who obviously, as Matt mentioned, Ant absolutely loves as that blitzing linebacker. Perfect scheme fit for you guys. I know he fell because of his size, but as Malcolm Rodriguez showed for us a couple of years ago as an undersized linebacker, size doesn't matter if you know how to use it. And he does with those blitzes. He knows how to get through those A-gap blitzes, which I think it was Zimmer invented 10 years ago that these guys still do. And then for someone who, as you know, I know Zimmer's coverage is always complicated. And I know that Flores runs a lot of like man coverage concepts, continuous pages. But you fix that because that was kind of always your issue, I felt, with the Vikings defense over the years, was Zimmer made it too hard for your guys to really focus and do what their jobs were. They can do that now, and and obviously with Smith being there, he's a very good veteran leader, something that we kind of miss. Byron Murphy having a career year after sort of flaming out with Cardinals, and then obviously Josh Metellus, who you mentioned, you guys drafted him. He's doing everything, and I'm going to ask later about him. He's kind of like your Roy Kent because he's here, he's there, he's every bloody where. Like it's you guys have really still like that defense has really stepped up because I hold my hands up, and I think Matt can as well. We weren't so high, I think, on the Vikings coming into this year. I think a certain member of the panel might have said they actually might have been worse than the Bears, but he puts his hand up. But you guys have stepped up, and it's, as you said, this division race between us two, if Kirk was back, would have been here, it would probably be just as watched as this Philadelphia-Dallas race because I agree, you guys could really be up there. You guys could be fighting us for this division lead, and you would be a higher seed. It could be you versus Dallas, for instance, for that fifth seed that maybe gets the easy matchup against an NFC South team and gets that easy sort of pass into the divisional round. So well done, really well done to you guys, even though why you keep using Brandon Powell as the push man and your sneak plays makes no sense to me when he's literally lighter and shorter than me, and that's saying something.
Ash, I love that you mentioned that because Kyle on his show few days ago was talking about that very fact, which is funny. I did say that I thought the Vikings were going to end up with a worse record than the Bears. I did buy into the Bears hype more than I thought that the Vikings were necessarily a really bad team, even though I might have said that in secret out loud. But at 1-4, I felt pretty justified in that opinion. And okay, Bucks, Eagles, Chargers, Panthers, Chiefs. Chiefs hard, Eagles hard. Did not think that the Chargers were a good team, even though they got Herbert. Panthers were obviously a bad team even by that point. And the Bucks I didn't believe in. So I felt like 1-4 was a big switch up on where the Vikings should have been if they were a good team. And then obviously they brought it back by winning against the 49ers. And, I mean, a Falcons team that can't decide whether it's going to be amazing one day or horrible some others. And then losing to the Broncos, which I think now looks bad after we played them. Losing to the Bears, beating the Bears. It's just an all-over-the-place team, which I can't really get my head around. So thank you, Ash, for that. So Daniel Hunter limited in practice today, but otherwise no change from the injury report. Let me give you some more offensive stats and overall stats, and we can put this in the picture. Here is going to be something which I think a lot of Lions fans won't have heard before. PFF have the Vikings ranked as the 8th overall team in the league. 8th, despite being 500. I think they're the highest ranked 500 team in the league. The offense is also ranked 8th, defense 11th. DVOA have the team 15th overall, which is a pretty significant difference. Offense 21st, just like what when PFF have it 8th. Defense 5th overall, so much higher on that way. I really don't understand the difference between those two metrics, if I'm quite honest, but never mind. Quarterback Nick Mullins is going to start. This season he's thrown 46 passes and completed 35, 76.1% completion rate, 386 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, pass rating 76.4, PFF grade 65. I've listed the other quarterbacks, but they're probably not going to play. Running back Alexander Mattison is the lead back still, maybe. Is he? Don't know. Ty Chandler season, let's go. But anyway, 168 carries for Mattison, 660 yards, 3.9 yards a carry, no touchdowns on the ground for him. He's also 27 of 41 in the air for 174 yards, that's 6.4 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns in the air. PFF grade of 62.6. Jefferson, of course, we have to talk about, even though he's missed significant time, he's still found a way to catching the ball 45 times for 682 yards at 15.2 yards a catch and 3 touchdowns. PFF grade leading team of 90.2. And Hockenson, he's having a great year. 91 catches, 902 yards, 9.9 yards per catch, PFF grade of 78.8. Other good grades in there, Ty Chandler, 77.4, having a great time. Josh Oliver, the backup tight end, 76.9. Brian O'Neill, the tackle, 74.8. Ezra Cleveland, but yes. Wide receiver, Addison, 70.8. There are no badly graded players on offense for the Vikings. It's why they're ranked quite so highly. In terms of efficiency on offense, on third down, they're 15th. On fourth down, they're third. And in the red zone, they are 26th. Kyle, to me, this paints a very complicated picture of a middle-of-the-road team on third down, a poor team in the red zone, Hockenson and Jefferson and now Chandler are in, the offensive line is doing great, and the quarterback isn't screwing it up too much, but they're really struggling in some games and then looking great in others.
I think going back to what Ash said about the tush-push play, probably the worst call of the year. Running the same exact play back-to-back, having a 185-pound wide receiver pushing, baffling. The worst part of it is watching Brian Flores come up in between the first attempt and the next, and you see him visibly say, take the timeout. That's a head coaching experience. That's where some of the pushback on Kevin O'Connell has been. I have no problem with any of the stuff you just read. I'm with you. I don't know how the hell you would grade them 8. I can think of 10 other teams that are better than the Vikings to start. But the only negative, and I hate being that person because I don't like saying this in a way that you think I'm attacking a player for their personality or anything like that. I'm not after you to take your money or be nasty, but Alexander Mattison may go the entire season without a rushing touchdown, and he's your running back 1. He's terrible. He's point blank. He's terrible. I don't know why they thought a guy who came in for relief in Dalvin Cook's absence when he would, do some damage on a defense. You thought this guy was capable of being a running back 1. Ty Chandler comes in one game and has a better outing in one game than he's had all season. This is a position they need to invest in. They tried with Cam Akers. He looked better than Alexander Mattison while he was healthy for a few weeks. Unfortunately, tore his Achilles too, but that's my only complaint. Hawkinson's having a great year. Justin Jefferson could still get 1,000 yards this season after missing like 6 games if he balls out the next 3 games. I don't know. I know we're going to shift it to the Lions. Biggest weakness for us on the offensive side of the ball now is quarterback and running back. Defensively, I've seen some of our guys make mistakes, especially the last game. It was a really bad defensive game. T. Higgins had the game of his life. So that was fun to watch. I don't know. I trust the defense way more than I do the offense. But it's weird. I've seen them, like you said, we're poor in the red zone, but I've seen them make these splash plays where Jordan Addison rips the ball out of a guy's hand and takes it for 45 yards. I've seen a broken play. I've seen a screen do magic and, get 35 yards. I don't think this team has had one consistent game outside of the 49ers games on both sides. And I just want to see that consistency to end the year. I think going forward, sticking with one quarterback and one style and one game plan will be very helpful. I think they're kind of brushing off the dust of a terrible Las Vegas game, a heartbreaker in Cincinnati. If they can just stick with one guy and find a formula and exploit the weaknesses. And I'd love for you guys to tell me, because I haven't watched enough Lions footage. I can only tell you what I've heard online, and I've heard that your secondary is a little suspect. That's all I've heard. I don't even know if that's true. I know that your offensive line is good, and I don't like that Aiden Hutchinson is as advertised. I was hoping he would be much like a Lewis Seen, a bust for us, but that is not the case. It is quite the opposite for you.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah. Ash, we'll come on to the Lions in just a moment. What do you think of the Vikings offense? I mean, the stats there, I mean, we're shitting on Mattison. He hasn't scored a rushing touchdown, but he's going at almost 4 yards a carry. And, as a power back who's destroyed the Lions on several occasions. Sorry, were you going to go there, were you?
I was going to go.
I mean, we are... I don't think it's unfair to say that we are not forgetting about him.
Yeah, as well. As you quite rightly put, Masterson always seems to have career games against us.
That's crazy that you say that, because I can't think of one time he's had a career game in his career. I just remember him as the backup to Dalvin. He's a nice piece, but I'll echo it again. I don't know how you objectively sit down as a coach and say that guy's running back number one material. It baffles me. He's not that good. But
yeah, well,
you can remind me. I just remember in recent years we split with the Lions because that's what we do. You guys got better, and it annoyed me. I was like, I thought the Lions were terrible all the time. I thought we just had to worry about Green Bay, and it's like, no. The Lions are here, and they're causing quite a ruckus.
So in 2021, he had 25 carries for 113 yards in the game in Minnesota, and then in the reverse game at Detroit, he had 22 carries for 90 yards and a touchdown. So all in all, in the 2 games, he had 203 rushing yards.
Yeah, it was mostly a symptom of the pencil head. Well, the Philadelphia defensive coordinator days, shall we put it? We don't mention his name on this podcast anymore. But you probably saw my eyes widen a bit in fear when you said that you were looking at the running back market, because I know what you guys are like with Florida State running backs, and there's a certain one coming out this year who's pretty damn good. So please don't break my heart and take him. Don't make me have to cry when I watch Trey Benson tear apart our run defense next year. But as quite rightly put, you guys did, the playmakers have stepped up when you've lost Kirk. They've stepped up, obviously Jefferson being out as well. Addison stepped up, took his place. Hawkinson, he was kind of consistent with us, but he would be consistent for about half a season, then fall off the face of the earth. He'd always seem to have a good first 6-7 games and then just disappear for the rest, probably get 20 yards. He's been that consistent guy since he's got the bag for you. He's been that security blanket for you. And as I said earlier, the offensive line has stepped up as well with the addition of Reisner. So it is a fearsome offense to come against, especially with Jefferson actually being back now after, obviously, I think it was 2 weeks ago, he took that hospital pass, quite in to use an English term, and got injured quite heavily in the chest. Him being kind of back from that, it's scary for us because, yeah, we might not have a Marnie on our team who would line up offsides or draw a holding penalty every 2 plays against you guys, flashing back to last year. But yeah, the secondary has kind of been suspect at times this year. Is it talent? Is it Aaron Glenn just going very zone heavy and not really drawing up pressure? We'll have to see. Last week looks a lot better. We got to the QB a lot more with Ifeatu Melifonwu stepping up and just having the game of his life, though PFF doesn't agree because he got 1 touchdown scored on him. It's going to be fun to see. This will be the true test, I think, for the secondary and maybe for Glenn, because you've probably heard rumblings from Lions Twitter. We're not happy with Glenn. He's been here 3 years. We haven't really seen that much improvement. We've obviously signed Cam Sutton in this offseason to be a big investment in that secondary. Brought in CJ GJ, who's hopefully going to be back for this game. It's going to be the sort of this next 3 weeks against you guys twice and against potential MVP candidate Dak Prescott. It's going to be a real test for our secondary in particular.
I believe you said MVP candidate and Dak Prescott in the same sentence.
Just because you're a Josh Allen fanboy.
Yes, I am a Josh Allen fanboy, and I do not make any apologies for it. I do think possibly the funniest thing about the Vikings offense is that you force Dalvin Cook to do it without a passable offensive line. And then you get rid of him as he's getting bad and you fix the offensive line. And it feels like Seattle, when they get rid of Russell Wilson, they have no offensive line for Russ. He has to kind of scramble everywhere. And then they get rid of him and they fix the offensive line. Just choose something which is going to work that's both of the things, not one of the things. But never mind.
And the irony there is, you would think with an improved offensive line, the running back would have a better year, and he hasn't scored a touchdown yet. And I think I said it on the show right when we were going on that nice little win streak for a month and some change. I was like, it's week 7 and we haven't scored a rushing touchdown. No one. And I was like, how is this possible? I like the offense. I'll be honest, and I'm a Viking fan. I think Justin Jefferson walks on water. I think he's the best wide receiver in the league when he's not hurt for the one time in his career. But I didn't notice him last week. And he had a quietly good game. He had like 90 some yards. But it would be great to have the offense humming, if they can hum, I should say, and having all four of those threats there. I guess you can call KJ Osborne a threat, but Addison, Hawkinson, and Jefferson, the three-headed monster. It's really fun to see how they draw it up. I really hope the coach doesn't get in his own way like he did. And then I'll just talk about a part of a game that frustrated me too, was the Raiders game. 3-0. If I was a fan, I would email them and say, give me my money back. This is a waste of my time. They do like a fake field goal and they just punt. What are you doing? I mean, there's been some head scratchers this season where, for all the reasons I love the guy, I just look at it and I'm like, I don't. And then, talking about the coach, some of the times he gets the negative press or whatever else. It's a lot of the times just the players, they haven't executed. I can't tell you how many times I've seen these receivers drop balls this year. And I'm like, if that would have been another first down, or this would have been that. And I think that's the rolling theme of this year is bad luck, injuries, and can we just put it together? I really want to see what they look like, because if you can beat San Francisco when everybody's running, you can kind of compete with anyone. They haven't lost any of these games by, crazy. That like last year we lost to the Cowboys. It was like 40-3. It wasn't competitive. You lose 20-something-7 to the Eagles. All these games have been within a score, so the Vikings can compete, but it's a matter of. And you guys remember early on in our season, it was just, here's the ball, have it. No, we don't need it. You have the ball. It was, I think by the fourth game there were 12 turnovers. I'm like, guys, something's got to give here. Luckily, they haven't been too bad about that since, but yeah. Frustrating year so far.
You mentioned the one-score games, and Mike the Marine had a question which I was going to leave, but you've touched on it. So Vikings were 11-0 last year in one-score games. This year they're 6-7 in one-score games after 14. So there's only one game that hasn't been a one-score game. They're in every game this year. Kyle, how's your heart with close games? You must be used to it by now.
How do I put this that'll be funny? Because I like to find the funny in my pain. I am the dumb guy in high school who will keep going back to his girlfriend that he knows is going to cheat on him again. That's who I am. I'm just a sucker for love. I love this team. I will watch faithfully every Sunday. I will hope that they win every single game. But in the end, I know in the back of my mind, like I said earlier, this team's not going to win the Super Bowl. I would almost guarantee my last paycheck of the year fully. I don't gamble. I promise you, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. I don't know. I would like to see them come together. If they lose all three and they don't go, I won't be upset. It's a better draft position. And to be honest, it's kind of what should happen with the quarterback going down. But yeah, I think my ultimate goal, it's not really about the one-score game question. My ultimate goal is if they get into the playoffs, I just don't want them to get embarrassed. If they lose on a close one or a field goal, I won't be upset. If they somehow squeak out a win like they did in New Orleans a few years ago, why not? This is a divisional round team at the very best. That's it. Kind of like the Giants last year. They got lucky because they played a terrible defense in ours and won, and then they went to Philadelphia and, the truth came out. I think the Vikings are at best a divisional team. But I will give the Detroit Lions their flowers. I have been waiting to say this for a long time, and this will be a kind of a jab, but you guys will get the last laugh because you're going to finish better than us. You're going to go in the playoffs and host a game. First time you'll win the NFC North. It's crazy that that's a stat. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. But, man, I like your running backs. I love your receivers. Your offensive line is sexy. Got to give the shout-out to the big boys. Jared Goff, not appreciated enough. Much like Kirk, I think he's a maligned quarterback. Defense has, its issues. But, man, you have some young and good free agent signings. Good draftees. I love Aiden Hutchinson. I do. He's great. What I would love, nothing would make me happier. Let's say this happens where, Minnesota wins Sunday and they beat Green Bay and we lose at Detroit. You guys win the North. We go to Detroit. You guys beat us. Oh, my God, we won the NFC North. We beat the teams, blah, blah, blah. What I would love is the next week if it lined up correctly, is you would go to Dallas or Dallas would come to you and you would eliminate the Dallas Cowboys. My goodness, that would be the funniest thing in the world to me. Just to end this hype train. I would love that. Now, what happens the next week? Good luck in San Francisco or in Philadelphia in early January, late January, whenever. But that to me is what I would love to see, the ideal Detroit Lions season. I would love for you to win and then just shut up because, it's going to happen. The Cowboys are going to get in the playoffs. Everybody's going to scream, "We them boys," and then they're going to fail again like they always do.
That's a beautiful, beautiful picture. I'm just trying to work out if us playing the Cowboys is even possible because
I don't think it is.
I think it is. So we would have to be the 3rd seed and Cowboys would have to be the 5th. And then whoever's the second to Philadelphia.
No. Cowboys would have to be 6 if we're 3. 4 plays 5.
Because if the highest seed... so 4 plays 5, the Cowboys beat the 4th seed and whoever's the second seed beats the lowest seed.
Oh, right. So in the divisional round. Not in the wild card round. Okay, I'm all aboard for that. If the Lions can play the Cowboys at home and eliminate them on a false PI penalty where the flag is picked up, I would just be so damn happy.
They're not good. They're not as good on the road. I mean, we saw I like Buffalo. I think they were just kind of like the reverse Vikings of last year. They find ways and just get heartbreakers where they go into overtime, they lose. They should have beaten the Eagles. They should have beaten this team. They are better than their record says. But the Cowboys, I mean, they got embarrassed. And if you're looking at a blueprint, just run the ball down their throat. It's one of the things I learned last week as a football fan. I believe it was Mark Sanchez was saying, look at the players that they have on the field. They're a lot smaller. You want to run at those guys. Yeah, they're faster than you. But if you want to pound the rock, you don't want to run into this big brick wall, refrigerator size men. I'm going to go after the smaller guys. You guys could run the ball on just about anybody. So that's my dream scenario because I know the Vikings aren't going to win the Super Bowl and whatever, wherever they finish, I'll just be like, yep, it sounds about right. They lost all 3 of their games and didn't make it. Sounds right. They somehow won the NFC North. Yep, that's the Vikings thing to do. They lost in the wild card round. Seen that before. I don't know where this team's going to go.
I am absolutely buying what you're selling right now. I really, really am. Guy Utah in the Twitch chat, subscribing at tier 1 for their 9th month, saying, "Loving the coverage, fellas. Go Lions." Thank you very much to Guy Utah. Appreciate you. We'll get onto that question from Brent in just a second. Just finishing off on the offense, I was watching the Cincinnati game, and I just wanted to touch on it briefly because it was crazy. And if you guys want to have a watch of the show that Kyle did with his guys on the Purple People podcast, it was really good, talking about Mullins and what happened in that game and the tush pushes and whatever. It was entertaining as hell. But Mullins is just an interesting guy. I think you said take out the interceptions, which, probably aren't repeatable. You ideally, they just don't happen. They're just bad plays, but take them out, you win the game. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, but Mullins with 2 crazy back foot throws, falling away out of a sack, completed a massive throw. I think that one was to... There was one to Addison, which was... Oh, one to Hutchinson. Hutchinson, the ball was way behind him and Hutch made an amazing catch. But then the Addison one, which went in for a touchdown, is why are you throwing that? And then he had the pick 6 called back for offside when Hendrickson went offside. So he had some bad plays and take them out, sure. But he also had some ridiculous plays too. So weird kind of guy. I can't make heads or tails of him. I fear him very, very much because it's sort of quarterback. All the Lions fans think, oh, we suffer against a rushing quarterback. We suffer against a pocket passer quarterback who can tear people apart in zone coverage. I know that Lions fans aren't going to agree with that, but I think that very, very much. We've seen that so much from people like, who's the bench Pittsburgh quarterback who started in Chicago?
It's Trubisky.
Thank you.
But he was mobile as well.
Oh, yeah, mobile, I don't know what the analogy is here, but he wasn't the most mobile guy. He was mobile I don't know.
I downgrade from mobile and I say athletic.
Exactly, yeah. He
Yeah.
was able to step away from that. He's not like a Derek Carr who we've played this year, who is very much how I see Mullins, because Mullins used to be the backup four car, used to be the backup four car in Las Vegas. And I think he started a couple of games in. He is very much like a sort of Carr, like a sort of Walmart version of Derek Carr. And we've seen what this defense did against Derek Carr this year. We've seen what we've done against Jimmy G, who is basically just a sexy version of Derek Carr. It might have been a trend of the past where we had other play calls, but this year we seem to do really well against those kind of guys, because Hutchinson's able to get the pressure, and then either he gets the sack, which has been rare because usually he's been held like a teddy bear, or someone else like a Bruce Irvin can come in and clean up the sack. So I kind of put in historically, we just struggled against weird backup quarterbacks.
We just struggled against quarterbacks.
We struggled against quarterbacks and tight ends. For now, it's just tight ends. As we'll come on to later, it's just tight ends. Now, I think we'll have a better day against Mullins than we could have done against a Dobbs or a Hall.
I take your point, and I'll move over to the defense because we've spent a long time on the offense. So some defensive stats for you guys. Your tackle leader. This is the first team we've covered where this is true this season. Your tackle leader is a safety. Cameron Bynum, 2 interceptions, 9 passes defended and a forced fumble, half a sack, 112 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, a quarterback hit, PFF grade of 79.5. Danielle Hunter, Daniil, as someone tried to correct me on Twitch for, Daniil Hunter, 2 passes defended, 4 forced fumbles, 15.5 sacks, highest in his career per season, 3 games to go as you have said. 67 tackles, 21 tackles for a loss, 20 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 76.6. Byron Murphy's been a good signing for you guys. 3 interceptions, 13 passes defended, a forced fumble and a fumble recovery, 57 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, PFF grade of 57.9. And then Ivan Pace, an interception, 2 passes defended, a forced fumble, 2.5 sacks. Amazed that isn't higher, actually, given how well he blitzes. 77 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 7 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade 78.9, as I said before, second in the team. Other good grades, cornerback Blackman, 78.7. Linebacker, obviously, Hicks, but he's on IR, 76.7. Metellus, the safety, but safety, linebacker, corner, defensive end, whatever you want him to be, 73.8. And Harrison Smith, the safety, 72.8. The bad grades in there, Pat Jones, the second, 35.3. And Lowry, defensive tackle, 47.4. It's a great defense. And on third down, however, it's 23rd. And on fourth down, it's 32nd in the NFL. And in the red zone, it's 7th. So I guess it's blitz happy. It brings phantom pressures. It's not great on third down or fourth down, but it tightens up in the red zone. And somehow those things don't add up to me either, because if you're good at blitzing, surely you're giving up big plays on the back end, and that hasn't really happened. But if you're a blitzing aggressive defense, how does that work in the red zone? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. The people that sit back and just kind of trying to defend everywhere in the zone seem to me, do better in the red zone, and yet you guys have been tight there compared to third down. So, Kyle, make it make sense.
This team, I wish they would do what they do on second down, on third down. I will say, for my money and for what I've seen, the blitzes will come heavy on the second down to put you in a third and long. What I wish would happen is maybe you don't have to send the house on third down, but to lock up the play, no matter what it is, as long as the first down isn't achieved and you don't get past the sticks. I wish that mentality would shift to the third down so you could get the defense off the field, make the other team punt, and get another chance to score with your offense. You'll see a lot of fronts where there's going to be 7 or 8 guys there. They're going to back off. You're going to see that again on the next play. And then, oh shit, there's 6 guys coming out. Somebody's unblocked. Hopefully they make a play. You're right. I have seen, especially of late, the last month, third down has been pretty 50-50. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's not. I've seen that a lot of teams have success on fourth down against this defense, and it's infuriating. But you're right. Going through the last couple of games, minus the Cincinnati game, is a little more high scoring. You play the Broncos, they don't score a touchdown until the final 2 minutes. It's just field goals. The Bears only scored field goals. The Raiders, who just put up, 60-some points on the Chargers, scored 0 against the Vikings at home. I can't make sense of it. I can tell you the most consistent thing is Brian Flores loves to blitz. There's a lot of pressure. Love to throw the quarterback out of rhythm, which I can appreciate, especially from last year where it was pretty much non-existent. The pass rush was anemic, as I like to say. And I really do love the DBs and the linebackers. They keep the most of the plays in front of them. They don't get beat a lot on the back end. They don't get burned. But I love the fact when they can get an offensive player in front of them and they have to make the tackle. They'll make the tackle, but somebody's, you'll see three guys coming to the ball. Somebody's trying to punch the ball out. So I would tell anyone, and the Lions do their due diligence on watching film, guard the ball, because we're pretty consistent on that. When we're not giving the ball away on offense, we are definitely forcing a turnover on defense somewhere in the game. And I don't know if it's just luck, but ironically enough, it's happened enough where it's happened in a crucial moment in the game, kind of when there's a lull where you need that spark in that play. And then here comes Harrison Smith. Here comes Josh Metellus knocking the ball out. So the thing that scares me on our defense for you guys is you have some speedy receivers. And if there's ever a play where somebody's kind of lazy and takes off, there's Jameson Williams taking a 60-yard pass to the house. I don't want that. I want you to earn your touchdowns. If you're going to have a play, have a T. Higgins play where it's turning around and spinning it into what can you do against that? You can't really do anything there. I don't know. That's my biggest fear is getting burnt on a big play, but I'll be interested to see how the pass rush works against a good offensive line that you have. I'm very interested to watch. You said Penei Sewell is your right tackle?
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see if it's him and Daniil Hunter lining up against each other. That'll probably be where my eyes go all day. Sneaky players to watch out for us. Ivan Pace, DJ Wanham. When you're covering Daniil Hunter, don't forget about DJ Wanham. He's definitely a second string guy, but he reminds me a lot of what Everson Griffin used to do for us. He'll sneak in and he'll quietly have like an 8 or 9 sack season, and you're like, damn, he's actually pretty good. Good rotational guy for us.
Yeah, 8 sacks for him on the season. Yeah, so you're right on the money. There we go. Ash, what do you think when you see this Minnesota defense? Because there hasn't been a bigger shift from a side of the ball from any team in the NFL year to year, I don't think.
Yeah, but I can put like sneaky. I've got a point. Ivan Pace will not be sneaky to us. I believe, and Ant will be so heartbroken if he makes a sack on Sunday because he'll be happy for that guy because trust me, like what I'm like with some of the FSU players, he was like that for Ivan Pace last year. He loved him to pieces, so he's going to be in two minds. But yeah, like this defense is going to be hard to go up against because Goff, when he has time, he can pick apart the zones. We've got one of the best wide receivers against zone in the league the past couple of years in Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's just a constant zone beater with his route running. Be interesting to see how we go up against the heavy man coverage. Because you said Amon-Ra can probably get some plays in that, but he's better against zone. Laporta, maybe not our best weapon against that other than JMO, because as soon as you mentioned him, I remembered Jameson Williams' first ever catch in the NFL. Kind of was against you guys last year for a big touchdown on the post. I remember that. But yeah. And if there's a guy who could maybe do that, he is slowly, but sorry. Last week was for the most part a breakout game for him. Before that, he was averaging like 2 touches a game.
No, that was the most. It wasn't averaging it. That was his max.
Yeah, he was maxing that, and now he had I think it was 4 targets, was it?
Yeah. No, 7 targets, 4 catches.
There were 7 targets, 4 catches. We're slowly using him in different ways. You might have seen his rushing touchdown a couple of weeks ago. We'll look for us to repeat something like that again, even if it's just a fake. And then we've got Gibbs coming the other way to score. We're slowly integrating him into the offense. Gibbs is someone I'm going to be very interested to see. She said we've got Montgomery, who kind of is the sort of refrigerator style back, even though he's kind of shifty. Gibbs against your linebackers might be a fun watch because obviously Hunter and one of good edge rushers, but if Gibbs can get to the corner against them, he might be going for 6. So that'd be kind of matchup sort of offensive line. Can they get the holes for Gibbs to blitz to? Because again, that's someone who a couple of weeks into the season, certain parts of Twitter were already digging on the pick, and hopefully they're all sitting there eating their words now because quietly he has been a damn really good running back this season. We might be the first team in quite a while to have 2,000-yard receivers and 2,000-yard rushers in the same season. that because obviously we've got I think it's Amara and Laporta for
Oh, if Laporta gets to 1,000, that'll be great. But I'm
yeah.
fading that at the minute.
Fade. So don't know Amara's already over it. He's top 5. But yes, Montgomery and Gibbs for the rushing. Like what? But it's just going to be so fun to watch because we haven't really gone against a team like you guys in a while. We've gone up against the Bears, the Packers, the Broncos, who are more zone heavy kind of guys. You guys are man heavy. We've seen a couple of blitzes, but not at the rate you guys do it. Like I think over the past couple of weeks, the only team that's been close to you in blitzes has been us, and that's been out of necessity because we haven't been getting to able to get pressure like you guys. Because you said you've got DJ Wanham, who's that complementary pass rusher. We have our version of Hunter with Hutchinson, third in the NFL in pressures, but he's got no one like the other side to really help finish the pressures. You might get a flash play from Bruce Irvin, who makes a good sack, and then a quarter later decides to practice for his his WWE career by absolutely spearing Derek Carr into the ground. We had Lee McNeil in the middle getting some pressure. He's obviously on IR, so we're having to look for one of my underrated guys, Josh Pascal, to step up in the middle. We need someone else other than Hutchinson to step up against your offensive line to do stuff because otherwise, who knows what might happen.
So Laporta needs 242 yards to become an 1,000-yard receiver with 3 games to play. He would be the 3rd tight end in history to do that in his rookie season, which would be very, very cool. And then so the record's 1,061? I think it was. So he needs 304 yards in 3 games.
Possible.
That's very possible. Okay. We can go for that.
I'm slowly but surely swinging you back into favour of that happening.
Maybe it can happen. Okay, let's go on to the matchups in particular. We talked about defense. We take both the run game, passing game, and look at it from both sides of the ball. And we're talking about the Vikings defense. So we might as well start there against the Lions offense. So let's start on the running side of the ball. So the Lions run game has been fairly hot all year. However, they have gone away from it when they get behind in games early. And so the coin toss somehow has become really important to the Lions recently. Kyle, obviously the defense for the Vikings has been great. But specifically against the run, how do you feel against that and against Montgomery and Gibbs and that offensive line?
Not an exciting answer, but I think if it's a run-heavy game, you wear the defense out, you'll get some progress. I don't think that is the plan. I think it's a very boring answer, but as balanced as you can be to open up, the run will open up play action, maybe a surprise screen here or there. I've seen the Vikings this year compared to last year where they couldn't stop a nosebleed. They've been very stout in the run game most of the time. When I say most, I say 50 to 60% of the time. Now, I do remember earlier in the season when Philadelphia just said, we're just going to run for 7 yards of play, deal with it. If you guys can do that, that'd be great. This is a good little tie-in for that. We mentioned earlier with the the injury report. Jordan Hicks was a full participant yesterday and today. He has been out, and he is eyeing his return as I'm looking here. Where's this from? Oh, yeah, this is up in Minneapolis. So this is one of the news channels, is hoping to play on Christmas Eve. He had a weird kind of infection. He had to have a quick surgery. So I'm not sure if he'll play again. They may err on the side of caution there, but he would be a nice addition again. He's not going to blow you away, but he was the signal caller for the defense. He was the green dot for us. Quietly having a good year until he got injured a couple weeks ago, but I'd like to see him come back. But to answer your question, with Harrison Phillips out, I think you have a better chance. It doesn't look like he's going to play. He didn't practice this week, unless he's just a full or a limited tomorrow. Maybe he'll go. He's kind of had a resurgence this year, so I'm hoping he can play. If not, Kairos Tonga will take his place. He's an all right player. I'm going to need guys to step up, though. I need Jacqueline Roy or Jonathan Bullard to have a good game. Now that I look at it here, Harrison Phillips did not practice with a back injury Wednesday or Thursday. I don't like that for us. I need the big boy in the middle to do what big boy does. So,
What do you reckon? Is that going to be the plan of attack for the Lions?
I think so, yeah. So obviously we've got the two stable running backs for a reason. It is our offensive identity. We are a run-heavy team. And as well, and said the opposite last week, but we need, I think with you guys, because of the way that you run your defense, we do need to run the ball to sort of draw those safety forces. Then we can hit you deep. We can start using JMO like that. We can use Josh Reynolds like that because he's kind of underrated as a deep threat. I know he doesn't have the speed that JMO does, but this is a guy who's like top 5 in yards per reception in the league with a certain, I think it's 20 targets cut off. Like that, like I remember opening the season, it's like first 5-6 weeks of the season, every catch of his was either going for a first down or a touchdown. He's got that chemistry we've got, especially deep. And as much as we love Laporte and Amon-Ra, who are going to probably get those again in certain situations, we probably might need to go for a couple of those big plays because if it does become a sort of grinder of a game, which it might do, it might be whoever gets more of those big plays makes the least amount of stakes, which will only be another contest considering where we were a couple of weeks ago, giving away the ball 3-4 times a game. It might just be one of those where whoever can hit the most big plays and keep care of the ball the most on those plays might win out the game. And so for us, we need to have that solid foundation of Montgomery getting 4 yards of carry, Gibbs getting those 6 yards of carry. I know obviously last week he had 9.9 yards of carry. He was absolutely going for it. That's not going to be the case this week. He won't be like that. But if we can still keep that ground game going, getting about 4.55 yards of carry just to keep those chains moving in case we have those situations like we have had in the past couple of weeks where Goff throws a pass and it's just in front of a receiver or just at their feet. We need to have that to fall back on. We can't get ourselves into the 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s we've been in recently where we ran the ball on first down, dropped passes on second down, and then we're suddenly stuck behind the chains going, what the hell are we going to do?
So for me, I think that Ant's plan, which is what we ran last week after we said it, is what we need to do this week. And I think that the run defense is the weaker part of Minnesota's game on the defensive side of the ball. But you have to make them respect the pass game in order to stop that. Because I fully expect Minnesota to be very close to the line of scrimmage across the board. Like, prove to me you can pass over the top of us first. Because I think a lot of people know by now that Jared Goff, not the best deep ball passer. So why have people deep? What's the point in that? And with a blitz-happy team, you have to pass the ball quickly. So what's the point in deep safeties? Like, if you want them in coverage, having them deep is just creating space on the field. So you've seen what's happened to the Lions when people have actually put defenders in the center of the field and forced Goff to throw outside the numbers quickly. If I'm designing the game for the Vikings, and if your TC wants to be a head coach, some basic scouting should tell you, maybe let's slightly tweak what we do, still keep our identity, but flood the middle of the field. And that's going to come with a lot of like run blitzes. I expect them to put pressure on our run game very, very early. And we have to earn the right to do it. The other part of that is that if we go, oh, they blitz a lot, we're going to, as an extension of the run game, throw out some screens. We're going to have some, what's it called? Bubble screens, running back screens.
Bubble screens, that
sort of thing. The Vikings are very good at defending those things. Think about the Lions when Branch and Jerry are in coverage and coming down quickly. Like, that's what I saw from the Vikings last week. So, if we try to respond to the pressure by doing that sort of thing, I expect the Vikings to match that very well. I think we could get ourselves into a lot of trouble very quickly if we try to run that way. So I want to see us come out playing the way that we did against Denver. Yeah, so pass the ball early. And everyone's going to go, oh, why are you doing this? We know that the running game's the way to win. Yeah, but make them respect you first. And the bit of our game which is not respected as much, even though we might have 2 1,000-yard receivers, is somehow the passing game still. So, let's pass the ball. Let's find those holes. Let's get JMO involved. Let's get Khalif involved and Reynolds involved. And I think the running game will absolutely flourish come even the 2nd or 3rd drive. But I expect them to come out passing the ball. And if they do, I think we'll win on the ground. But if we don't, I think we'll lose on the ground. And I think that's where the game will be won. Who wins the run game on this specific side of the ball? So For me, that's all important. Flipping over to the passing game, I'll come back to Kyle now. Your DBs, your linebackers, you are very confident in that kind of second and third level of your defense. Our wide receivers, you've heard a few of their names from Ash earlier, and you've heard of Amon St. Brown before. How do you feel about that matchup? Because I feel like that's strength on strength.
Yeah, I as they would say, if we did joint practices all summer, this would be iron sharpening iron. You have a speedy young guy in Jameson Williams. You have a great tight end that replaced Hawkinson. And I forgot all about Amon St. Brown, and that's kind of like a sin, you know? How could you?
I mean, the whole league did 3 times, so it's okay. Don't worry.
That's fine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need to respect that. And it'll be interesting to see just how many times they leave it in man. I like Byron Murphy. I don't love him. He was a great signing because if we just hauled out whoever was on the roster from the draft, we would be in very bad shape. He has played well more often than he hasn't. But, yeah, I think you kind of covered it well. I do suspect they will come in and blitz on the run. I think we can sniff out any kind of screens. They did a very good job the last few games of stopping those pretty much at the line of scrimmage. Where my mind was going to was thinking and looking at your schedule. You'll have the Cowboys, which isn't fun, in Dallas. I wish it was in Detroit, but you'll have them, then you'll have us again. I fully expect that whatever happens this week and Christmas Eve, 2 weeks later, the complete opposite. It'll be a completely different game. It's going to be so fun to see which avenue they choose now as opposed to what happens. I know the stakes will be different 2 weeks from Sunday as well because 2 games will have been played. But it's just funny to think about, you guys would come out. Maybe this weekend you have just a super pass-heavy first quarter, and then you just run the ball and just pound it for 2 quarters. Opens up the pass game again. You guys win by a touchdown or something like that. And then the next time we play you guys, it'll just be Goff's going to throw for 40. He's going to throw 40 times. Okay, let's do it. I'm interested to see overall the change in that and study it. But with the injuries, going to have to rely on the secondary. I like my guys. I'm afraid of the big play. That's what I'm afraid of. They've been pretty good against it this year, but there's been some boneheaded mistakes, which I don't want to see happen. It's one of those kind of like with the blitz, you live and die by. I could see them intercepting, a close pass. I could also see somebody getting tangled up because your route runners are very good. And here's a 30-yard pass. Now we're doing damage control to see if we can get them out of field goal range or hold them back to only a field goal, on one play. The Vikings aren't known for that. So I'm not going to say I'm concerned. It'll be interesting. I'm interested to see which direction they go this week, and especially with the injury report. I hope that Jordan Hicks comes, because if Jordan Phillips doesn't come back at defensive tackle, I'm hoping Jordan Hicks will come back at linebacker, so there will at least be more starter consistency. But yeah, your running game is certainly better than ours, so you can lean on it if you need to. And that I don't like. I don't like it very much.
Ash, what do you think about our pass game versus their pass defense?
Yeah. So as you said, if they do adjust and sort of flood the middle that time rather than the Porter, that's their areas. So it will be JMO, Reynolds, and then the epitome of the forgotten wide receiver 5, who is sprung to mind in a second because of the speed and the route running. What about the guy who's in the Mahomes zone of separation in the league the past 4 years with speed?
Mahomes?
Yeah, the Mahomes zone. So
I see.
So that's top where he's best separating league against man, best separate against zone in the league. Khalif Raymond. Yes. The guy that I forgot, and obviously, and that's a cardinal sin because we have his biggest fan on the show with us in Matthew Turner. Like, Leaf, this could be a game where he has that sort of, he's always had one seemingly every year where he does just suddenly goes 6 passes for 120 yards and a touchdown. This could be the perfect one because... Or
just even one pass reception against Green Bay in Week 18 last year, but never mind. We'll gloss over
exactly.
that.
Exactly. Stuff like that where he just, like you say, even I forgot him. I was looking like PFF, I was like, someone forgetting it. It's Leaf because, especially with those man coverage, I'm hoping we're going to do a lot of those sort of mesh concept routes where you force the defenders to go against each other, even if it means Amon-Ra has to do the cheeky thing he did a couple of weeks ago, where he almost leans into the guy coming so that it makes him collide. Just stuff like that, just to give us that little extra half step of separation against the man coverage. I have faith that Ben can draw that up because he's obviously getting these rumours for a reason. This is one of those games now where, as I said, we've played a lot of zone recently. We've had some good games against it. We've had some really bad games against it. Turkey Day, for example. Hopefully, he can use all the weapons we've got, even if it is Gibbs motioning out as a receiver, using that speed as well. The angle routes, which were so damn deadly last week, 4 of our 5 passing touchdowns came off angle routes. It's stuff like that, just stuff that forces the defenders to take that half second to think, and then we can get that little bit of extra separation against the man coverage.
Let's go to the other side of the ball. Vikings run offense versus Lions run defense. And this, it depends on Ty Chandler for me, but I feel like this might be the biggest mismatch of the game. I don't know. We'll see. Kyle, I don't know if you know this, but the Lions are second in run defense in the NFL. So, yeah. So, how are you feeling about? Well, let's assume Ty Chandler's running back 1 because I feel like that's best case scenario for you. Let's say Mattison's ruled out and everyone is really, really happy. Ty Chandler, how's he going to do? Because I got to say, I watched the game last week and he kind of looked like David Montgomery to me. Like, just slippery, getting out of tackles, good contact balance. Like, maybe not quite as big of a guy, but not far away.
Right. I like the effort after the first initial tackle or wave. I like the effort a lot. I also, and this doesn't say much because I'm not an Alexander Mattison fan, I'm very much happy with the vision this guy has. I feel like for what Mattison tries to do, he doesn't actually have the athletic compass to do sometimes. Yeah, I think that's a great comparison. Do I expect him to have the same game that he had last week? No. I did not know your defense in the run game was so stout, but it's kind of the same thing you said. We will lean on the run. This has been an emphasis from Kevin O'Connell, especially midway through the year when the rush attack was so bad. Needing something there. We will lean on Ty Chandler, but to expect him to have 130 some yards again, I mean, I'd love that, but I don't expect it. But I'm happy that he's going to be the running back that we're going to choose because, I believe I had it up here. I got out of it. Alexander Madison's still out. A couple key pieces are actually out for the Vikings starters, but I feel like he probably should have been running back 1 all along. It's a politics game for us. They signed him to a 3-year deal. It was relatively cheap. And because he has that money and kind of that guaranteedness, that's why he was given the starter role, and he's a veteran. But it doesn't necessarily mean that he gives you the best chance to win. I truly feel Ty Chandler gives us the best attack in the running game to win. But that doesn't say much because that's the weakness of the offense.
Yeah, it's, as you said, we're very good against the run, but it's obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't O'Connell sort of the McVay outside zone kind of basis? Mm-hmm. That means we can have to rely on Hutchinson to hold the edge. We're going to have to rely on whoever's lined up on the opposite side to sort of set the edge as well, and the linebackers to flow well. And against the sort of outside zone stuff, we haven't been as good as we have been against the inside zone where we've got the big guys to clog up the middle. We can get that push. When teams try and go on the outside against us and it's more on the linebackers and the corners, they have been getting a bit more joy. And as we said earlier, Patterson always seems to have a good game against us. If we're, by the end of Sunday, I'm sitting at home sobbing into a bottle of Bucks Fizz because he's ran over us, I won't be surprised. But at the same time...
That's a bleak fucking image, man.
I know.
Come on, mate. Bucks Fizz. Can of it. Like, not even a bottle of it.
But I said a bottle. I did say a bottle. Admittedly, it'd probably be a bottle of Lidl Bucks Fizz, so not the best stuff. But if I'm sitting there crying because that happened, I won't be surprised. But at the same time, it's going to be a bit. Hopefully, you can probably hear me constantly refreshing because it's about now. Our injury report should come out. I'm hoping to see at least an FP from Barnes because we're going to need the linebackers. We need him because he's getting converted edge rush from Purdue. He's got the frame to deal with running backs. and the athleticism, having him flowing well, having Anzalone hopefully another week removed from that hand injury, getting up there. Jack Campbell continuing his steady rise that he's had throughout the season, where he's sort of settled into that inside linebacker instead of being put here, there, and everywhere. Having him back. Hell, Malcolm Rodriguez, a kind of forgotten guy for us after his great year last year, being put a fullback in special teams most of the last couple of weeks. Just having guys who can read the run and get where they need to get to stop it is going to be a big key, I think, against this run team, because, they might not have Dalvin Cook anymore, but we've seen other running backs cause some damage against us. Case in point, Donta Foreman the past couple of years. Not the biggest name in the world, but if they hit the right kind of tread, you can have a day against us, I feel.
It feels like we're due as well. I don't believe in that sort of thing, but I feel like I'm repeating a trope that other people would say, so I don't feel so bad. Let's focus on the last bit here before we talk about what we think the game is actually going to do, what the scoreline might be, and then we've got a couple of questions from the chat to finish. The Lions' passing offense against the Lions' passing defense. Carl, you mentioned that the Lions, you think, have had some troubles in the secondary lately. You would be correct, apart from in the previous game against Denver, where they woke up for the first time in what feels like 18 months, maybe longer. So, I mean, if the best available evidence is most recent, then we have one good data point very recently. But for the longest time, the Lions have struggled in coverage. And you have a fairly accurate quarterback throwing to a very good set of receivers.
I'm not looking for much outside the numbers. I really like the slants and anywhere we can get these guys, the three-headed monster I mentioned earlier, in the middle of the field. I think that's where they thrive. There won't be any more hospital balls from Nick Mullins. Like I said earlier, he will be the closest you can get to Kirk Cousins out of the three quarterbacks. He kind of reminds me of him, kind of diet Kirk Cousins. He's going to stand in the pocket. He's athletic enough to move if he has to, but it's not going to blow you away. I expect TJ Hawkinson to have a good game. I would love to see more splash plays from Jefferson or Addison. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know who you've got covering, but one of those three will be open, at least one on every play. So if he can pick that up, we'll see what happens. It's very hard to cover all three of those dudes. I would guess, and you guys could tell me, based on what your defense would do, but you're probably going to double cover Justin Jefferson. So I think it would be foolish to leave him in one-on-one. So then it's the TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison show at that point. But Jefferson can still do what he needs to do. But I've seen the success all year. I can see 100 different routes where maybe it's a delayed run. It's just getting that good separation and cut, which I think of Jefferson and Hawkinson doing. Addison's very elusive for how small he is. I'm not as big a fan of his size, but, man, he's proven me wrong. But, yeah, I'd say the middle of the field is the best success. Like I said earlier, I haven't watched many Lion games. I was very shocked on Thanksgiving for how that turned out. But
you and us both.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Trust me, I've been there with the Bears having sneaky good games in the division. It's really annoying. But, that's all I've heard. And it's just hearsay from – being on a Twitter space and then a Lions fan in the spaces that I'm always in. He's always consistently there. He's a really cool guy. I want to see the middle of the field. That's where their bread and butter is. And maybe they can hit some stuff outside the numbers. Jefferson can catch just about anything, but I don't think that's what they're going to rely on.
Ash, Carl's talking about double coverage for Justin Jefferson, but he is talking about a Lions defense who managed to leave DJ Moore, the only wide receiver, only weapon worth covering, one-on-one on 4th down and 13 when Hutchinson jumps offside and the Lions blow the game in that play. So, is he right that the Lions are going to double cover Justin Jefferson? Because I'm not sure that's going to happen, at least not all of the time.
Yeah, we're not a team that very much likes doing that. Or QB spying. Like, we just like to play sort of plain vanilla kind of alignments. Hell, we probably won't even travel.
You could call it the missionary defense. I think that would work.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, missionary defense. Yeah. Hell, we don't even travel. So we saw a case in point of that. the Chargers game with Keenan Allen. Just watch that second half where they just keep putting him in
fuck
motion,
me.
getting the kind of matchups. Hopefully we got out of that, especially if Jefferson's lined up in the slot, which I know he likes to do about 35% of the time. That means he's going up against next gen stats, number 3 cornerback in slot cornerback in the league, Brian Branch, who at least has a good shout for being the defensive rookie of the year. Like, that dude has been immense for us. He was a big miss in the middle of the season where we didn't have him. Him versus Jefferson is going to be a very fun watch because Branch doesn't back down from nobody. Like, he will give Jefferson a tough day. Jefferson will probably still get his, as will pretty much every receiver in the league. It's impossible to cover everyone all the time, especially with the way that we kind of get pressure but don't finish it off. It is, for me, again, but it's going to be the outside. It's going to be Addison versus Cam Sutton or Kildor Vild or Khalil Dorsey, whoever is starting on the outside, because saying earlier, Jerry Jacobs, who was one of our starting corners on the outside to start the year, he's injured with a hamstring. We've been rotating Vildor and Khalil Dorsey, who only made the roster in the initial roster as a special teams guy, as the backup kick returner and a gunner. That's going to be an interesting matchup to see what happens there, if it's KJ Osborne or Jordan Addison or hell, Brandon Powell, who Lions fans should be very familiar with because he used to play for us. He was the sort of big, like the slot guy for us. I think it was 2018. We played you guys the final game of the season. He went off, and then he went to Atlanta and basically did Cole. Like, that's going to be an interesting matchup. Branch, I can trust. Sutton, for the most part, I can trust. If he's on Addison, probably about 55% completion rate. Probably get one big play, but that's about it. It's whoever's going to be going up against the cornerback 2 slot. And then, obviously, Hockenson. We have historic weakness against tight ends. Anzalone, probably our best coverage linebacker, but he has a hand injury. The safety is a bit up and down. Like, I love Kirby Joseph to bits. I'm his biggest fan. He's a single high guy. If you try and put him in man coverage against Hockenson, Hawkinson's going to have his way. Fatu Melifonwu had a great game last week. I last year theorized he could be a tight end matchup for us. This could be a test for that. Or if we get CJ back, that might sort it out. So it's going to be Hawkinson and then whoever lines up opposite our cornerback 2 on the outside. Those are the big matchups in terms of how you guys can probably win. If we hold them to minimal yards, which is unlikely, we'll probably do quite well. But those are the matchups I'm kind of shivering in my timbers in.
So I have a question about this, just so I can. I feel like I know the answer, but if I do, then this is just setting myself to kick my own self in the nuts. Brian Branch was lifted as a safety, right?
Yeah, so he's we like to play a sort of slot safety kind of hybrid thing. So you remember how CJ Gardner-Johnson played under Aaron Glenn in New Orleans, where he lines both a safety and a slot corner. We're doing that kind of thing with him. So he obviously Branch does that. It's kind of a rising thing, isn't it, in the leagues where when you're playing nickel a lot, teams can exploit that. So you need to have a sort of bigger slot corner. He's that kind of thing where he does play 65-70% time in the slot or in the box, but he also does drop back as a 2 high safety, or even sometimes as a single high guy for us. It really depends on what alignments you guys put out, because if you put out, for example, Hockenson and Josh Oliver, he probably is going to play sort of that sort of box safety role where he covers one of them. But if you put out 3 wide receivers, he'll be lined up against a slot guy.
I only ask, when was he picked? What round?
Round
middle of the 2nd.
And that was this year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. We famously traded up with the Packers to pick him, and it absolutely broke Packers Twitter.
Yeah.
I only ask because we drafted a safety as well in recent years, and he hasn't played fuck all for snaps. And it's the most infuriating thing to see a healthy scratch. Now I understand. You got Harrison Smith. I will go and die on the hill for Harrison Smith. He has better numbers, and they're comparable to Troy Polamalu. But because he doesn't have the rings, he won't get that coverage. I believe he deserves, at a minimum, the Ring of Honor in our franchise at the stadium. Should get a look for the Hall of Fame. I don't know that I say guaranteed. I digress. You have him. You have Cameron Bynum, who's came on. You have Josh Metellus. But Lewis Seen can't find his way on the field, not even for special teams. He's a healthy scratch. This is a first overall. national champion from the University of Georgia 2 years ago, football player. What the hell? But I see the guy that went, Kyle Hamilton for the Ravens, is doing amazing things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You guys doing great too. And I'm just like, can we get something out of the first round?
That'd be nice. I mean, I loved seeing in the draft build up a couple of years ago. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Ash is just updating me with the injury report for the Lions. I'm going to wait for that to come out. Ash mentioned Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I just want to address that before we come on to the actual predictions. Jalen Carter is minus 5,000 to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. That is 50 to 1 on if you're British. So that is 98%. He mentioned Brian Branch as a prospect for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'm looking at Bet365, who are the world's biggest sports betting company, I think. But Branch is listed, but he is only the fourth joint favourite at 100 to 1. That's plus 10,000. Ivan Pace is listed as 50 to 1, or plus 5,000. So Ivan Pace has greater odds, better odds to win Defensive Rookie of the Year than Brian Branch does, and that speaks to how good he has played this year. Okay, Ragnar vet rest, Levi Sewell full practice. Awesome, fine, good. That's good stuff. Let's move on to the game specifically, not who has the advantage here or there. What's going to happen? And Carl, I'll start this off by actually giving you a hypothetical scenario and then give us what actually is going to happen. And the hypothetical scenario is the Vikings come out of this game with a win. How did you do it? And then actually tell us what your score prediction really is. So how did the Vikings win this game?
The most boring answer of all sports and football podcasts: don't turn the ball over. That's it. If this team simply doesn't give the ball away, I have faith they will find a way to make a turnover for themselves. Hopefully it will lead to some points, maybe a touchdown. I don't know. And another boring answer. Do what you do and do it well. Rush the quarterback. Rely on your playmakers. You have a three-headed monster on the offense. Do that. If Ty Chandler can do half as good as he did last game, I am fine with that, because that's still better than what Alexander. I'll tell you a funny thing from my podcast, and then I'll answer you the score. I said going into this year, all you have to do is average 59 yards per game on the ground. You'll be a 1,000-yard rusher in a 17-game season. It's not very much. That's less than 20 a quarter. It's really not an ask. Our running back couldn't do that. I need someone to just, at a bare minimum, be the word efficient on the ground. But yeah, no turnovers. Nick Mullins, do what you do well. I think he's very accurate. I don't think that he should be quite as reckless as the last game, because there was an interception at the worst possible time in the red zone. But it's tough for me to pick what I think will happen, because when I say it, I feel like the universe shifts it around. There'd be some weird reason why we lose at home, but we beat you in Detroit. That just has how it goes for Viking fans. I think this will be a touchdown game. I want to go with Minnesota, but with the injuries, I'm going to give you guys the nod. I'll say maybe 31-24 Lions. Maybe a little more high scoring than that. I don't trust the Vikings to do that as well. I would love to see them win at home. The energy there is great. It's going to be our whiteout game, by the way. It's going to be amazing in there. I don't know if you saw the Giants game last year, but it's crazy. I visited Minnesota for the first time ever this year and went to the Chiefs game in week 5, and the stadium is unreal. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, with the injuries, right tackle and I forget who else is out. Jordan Phillips is out. I'm not too sure. And to be honest with you, the last month has not given me any hope as a fan. Terrible Denver game, a terrible Chicago game, a terrible Raiders game. They find some kind of – they muster up 400 yards of offense the last game, but they find a way to lose. So I have to go in my heart of hearts and say we will win 2 out of the last 3. But I don't know that it'll be this Sunday. We need more of our key players back. So I'll give the Lions 31, Vikings 24.
I can definitely see win-win loss or win-loss loss for the Lions. I could definitely see that. Ash, what do you think?
Well, for one, I think you guys have chose this week to be your whiteout game just to stop us wearing our all whites that we're undefeated in the past couple of years. Very, very. I applaud the mind games, really do. Joking. Well, not joking about us being undefeated, but
I love how you say joking, not joking. Good stuff.
Yeah. I'm going to still a tiny bit of your prediction. We can't turn the ball over. We, as I referenced earlier, we had a stretch, including our Thanksgiving game, where we just gave the ball away like it was Christmas presents. We can't do that this week. We can't give you an early Christmas present. Goff still has a couple of those throws a game, even when he's on, where it's just something stupid. Like he spins away from a sack, tries to throw it to like David Montgomery, overthrows him, and just nearly gets intercepted by a corner, but they drop it. Something stupid like that. We've seen it all season. Sometimes teams can capitalize on it. Marcus Peters in the Raiders game, for example, can't really have this, especially against you guys. As you say, if you're not turning the ball over, you're getting turnovers. So hopefully we can carry it over from last week where we faced a defense that was at that time top in takeaways in the league. Hopefully we can carry that over where we protect the ball, we do what we need to do, and we limit as you said, you need your three-headed monster to win out. Hopefully we can at least limit two of them. We can kind of live giving up 100 yards to Justin Jefferson. I think we won last year doing that. I can't remember which game it was. I think it was the first one where he had like 150 yards on us, but we still won narrowly. We can let one of them go off, but if we let two or more of them, it'll start adding up. You'll collect first downs, you'll get into the red zone, you'll get scoring opportunities, and maybe we won't be able to keep pace. Well, hopefully we should be able to keep pace. We've shown we can, but the defense will start flagging, and we've seen where the defense is on the field for a long time. They flag, they give up more and more big plays, and it just digs us a hole. We can't let that happen this week. We need to do what we did last week against Denver, where as soon as we get that lead, we don't let up. We just keep pushing. If you score a touchdown, we score a touchdown. If you score a field goal, we score a touchdown. We need to keep that going because otherwise this can get close. And that's not what we want, where stakes are so high. We couldn't win the division this week against you guys. The first time in my lifetime, I exposed myself a bit here. I turned 25 last week. I have never seen the Lions win the division. Been nice to see that happen for once and celebrate it, because we have been the punching bags for a while. And I really want that to happen. But I think it will be one of those cardiac cat games. So it'll be very close. And it will just be, it might be one of those where whoever touches the ball last wins. So I can see the Lions winning 31-27.
I am going to make the prediction that I have made several times this year, and it has not come true yet. But I feel like this is the week. The Vikings are a good defense. They are a good coverage team. They are a good blitzing team. The Lions, as I've illustrated, could very well fall into a trap, which I think is fairly obvious. And they got out of it last week because Denver have the same trap, although they don't execute it as well. But I feel like there is a trap which we could fall into. If that happens, I still back us against Nick Mullins. I just think we're going to be okay. I know the receivers are great. I know the tight end is great. But I feel like we can limit that enough. All of that for me adds up into a game where there's not many turnovers from either team. And there's not much offense from either team. So I'm going to go for a limited game in terms of scoring. I'm going to go 17-13 Lions.
Ooh, boring game. I like it.
Yeah, I predicted a low-scoring game for a while, and I just feel like it's coming. So let's see what happens. We've got a couple of questions to get to, but I'm going to wrap up the audio pod, and we're going to do that on extra time. Hopefully you have 5 minutes, Cal, more, and then we'll.
Of course.
Love it. All right, audio pod wrapping up now. So there's no live reaction show for this game coming up. I know there normally is. I'm sorry if you were looking forward to it. However, it's Christmas Eve. Go and spend it with your family. Don't come hopefully watching us, because this is not happening. Go and have a drink and enjoy your Christmas. Review show will be happening. It will probably be Boxing Day on Tuesday, so look out for that. It might just be me on my own. I don't know, Ash, how you're fixed. I don't know how the rest of the guys are fixed. We'll make something happen at the very least for that. College podcast, it happened yesterday. It's on the audio pod at the moment. I'm going to upload it on the YouTube now. So if you're watching right now, it's coming. But they talked bowl games and all the stuff that Ash said earlier on the show. Our socials, you can find on Rural Alliance UK on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And our group for worldwide fans is Teacher at Alliance Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. ROTLUK.com is the website. Please don't forget to subscribe and rate us 5 stars. Finally, Kyle, where do we find you? Because I've much enjoyed your show recently. So I'm sure the guys in the live chat would love to know where to find you and to listen to what you said about your most recent game, because it was enthralling.
I appreciate that so much, man. I really do. I am a part of the Purple People podcast. If you are on YouTube, you can find us there, Purple People podcast. I have changed the format recently. Instead of doing pun titles, which you guys started with, which is hilarious, we've had for years and years and years, I changed it to just the name of the game of the week so people could relate, because sometimes they don't get our stupid humor. And I wanted to get more eyeballs, but yeah, I'm at Purple People Podcast. YouTube is the best place. We're on Spotify, iTunes, all that fun stuff. I push the Facebook and the YouTube one. Me personally, and I'll invite you, gents, if you have Instagram, my personal Instagram is at NC, like my state, North Carolina, NC Dog Dude. I am a canine handler for the TSA here in America. I've been a dog handler for 11 years now, and I don't post a lot of anything much outside of music, football, and my son, but I'd love to be friends on there. And I appreciate you guys. You have a fan in me. I'm going to push this to my guys, and I will definitely check in and try to get in on the days that we don't have something going on and just jump in and be like, go Lions, but also Skull.
We have a Vikings fan who has come on the show before a few times who has coined the term skull pride, which I intrinsically hate, but also for the FTP-ness of it, I kind of like it. So we'll leave it on the audio show there. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We'll see you after Christmas. Good luck for this weekend's game. Hopefully the Lions clinch tonight, and then we don't have to worry about the playoffs. Hopefully the Saints get the win. But for now, let's go Lions, One Pride.
One Pride.
Recording stopped.
And a couple of questions. One, which I actually wanted to get on the recording, but we've gone on way longer than I wanted to on the audio pod anyway, just because it's what we do. I think we can't do any less. Is Austin Damon asked, what do you think of your GM? And we mentioned him before we actually went live, and that we are very familiar with Quasi. He's an analytics guy. He's made some interesting trades in division. He's made some interesting picks with those trades. But I still feel like there's positive momentum for you guys. And I don't know whether that's true because I'm not in Vikings Twitter very much. But do you like him?
I hate this because I'm so indifferent. There are good and what's the word I want to use here? Justifiable reasons to not like him. And then he'll turn right back around with every Lewis Scene pick. There's a TJ Hawkinson trade. There's a free agent signing of Cameron Bynum and Dalton Reisner. First year that he gets in, he and the head coach, I know he didn't have all of the say, but he had some say in hiring of Kevin O'Connell. That's always a good one. He helped with the signing of Brian Flores. He picked Jordan Addison in the first round. Got Ivan Pace in the undrafted stuff. There's, for everything that you don't like, there's something there. I just wish, and it's not I see your notification. Awesome, dude. They haven't done this. A fun fact about the Vikings, you guys have never heard. We have never drafted a quarterback inside the top 10 picks in the draft in the history of the franchise. I believe Dante Culpepper was 11. So
wow, that's
you're going to have to have some ball. And I get it. I understand these guys want to win a Super Bowl. Every team wants to. But the thing that I've coined, and this isn't groundbreaking news, but I've stuck by this because I believe it. Every new general manager and head coach, especially when they are hired at the same time, they will live and die by the quarterback that they choose in the first or second round. You have to have the balls to go and get your guy. And it's going to cost you a lot. It's essentially you're putting your job on the line. But I am so sick and tired, and I hate this. I hate saying this because it hurts. I am so sick of the Teddy Bridgewaters. and the Christian Ponders.
Oh, I love Teddy.
I love Teddy too, and I'm sad that he's retiring. I heard he was retiring after this year. He who knows what ifs could have happened that 2017 year if he wasn't hurt and Sam wasn't brought in. But man, I want them to take a swing on a quarterback, and maybe that's not the formula they want to go with, but they've shown little traits of that. Like,
oh yeah,
you're going to pay Kirk Cousins $38 million. Remember, he was getting paid like $35 million a year, and people were like, "This is bullshit. It's too much." Now, I understand he's not Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, but these guys are getting paid $50 million a year. The cap goes up, the number goes up to pay your quarterback. So use the formula of what Baltimore is doing. Get a guy on a rookie deal for 4 years. Let him make what he makes. Break the bank on year 5. I think 4 years is a respectable time to try to win a Super Bowl. And there's plenty of formula out there on it. You can do it the old-fashioned way like Baltimore has done and San Francisco. Sometimes you sign a free agent, sometimes you don't. Or you can do what the Rams did and say, fuck it, I'm just going to sign 7 really good guys in the offseason. I'm going to go over my cap for the next year. I'm going to put my chips in. I mean, that's literally the team that he won a Super Bowl with. But
yeah.
Out that question, man, I think
no. I mean, I can safely say welcome to Minnesota, JJ McCarthy. At this point, that's where I'm at.
Probably it'll be a late round. I think they'll take someone late first or early second. There's a lot of quarterbacks in the draft, but to round the point out, man, I forget who said it. I think it was Jared Goff on a podcast recently. He said, "What do you think the fair amount of time is to evaluate a quarterback?" And he said 3 seasons. I couldn't agree more. Some guys, like, they're going to get 1 or 2 years and then they're getting pushed aside. And it's like, well, what if they changed offensive coordinators? What if the head coach is fired? What if you were okay the first year and then your star number 1 receiver goes? Like, there's so many variables.
All of this is basically the Justin Fields argument right now.
100%. And look what he's done to get some momentum going in the last part of it. It really looks like they might be figuring it out.
Pick it up for a second-round pick. I don't think they're going to go with him. They're going to pick someone number 1, pick him up for a second-round pick. The Vikings will be laughing because the thing is, he's really turned it on, and he actually looks better as a passer. You gave him a receiver, and he looked better as a passer. Who knew?
And you don't think about it when you look and watch the game because every one of those guys are like the size of Shrek, and they're gargoyles and huge. But he's a big quarterback. I would love to have him, but I don't know that they would do that. I don't know. The Vikings, Questy will trade in the division. He's done it before. But to answer that question, yeah, I think you need to give him 3 years. He'll have year 3 next year, and it'll be the most pivotal because Kirk's going to be 36. He's got a year or 2 left, and then it's going to start looking real bad, and he's going to get old. I don't want to see old Phillip Rivers on my team. I would like to see a young guy who is learning how to pass. And I think the coach that we have is definitely the quarterback developer. I think he'll be great. It's not bad to be able to throw to Justin Jefferson too. That's pretty cool.
Justin Fields, 6'3", 228 he's listed as, which seems lighter than I thought he was, to be honest. That seems very slight. I thought he was more like the 240 mark, to be honest. He's like it's a fridge. The last question we had was from Brent DeWitt. He's asked, how much attention do you think Flores will put on Sam Laporta? And I think the best way to frame that question is, how much attention has he paid to tight ends generally? Because God knows what he's going to do with Laporta, much like the rest of the league. But is he someone that focuses on tight ends particularly, or that your defense suffers against tight ends particularly?
I couldn't think of a game this year where a tight end has absolutely destroyed us. I wonder if his Bill Belichick-inness would come out where they would say, yeah, we're going to rush. Yeah, we're going to do this coverage or this scheme, but we're also going to take away your best playmaker. I don't know what you guys think is who your best playmaker is overall. I'll tell you this. And at the very beginning of that trade, when we made that trade, I was like, why the hell would you trade TJ Hawkinson? You don't want to pay that guy? He's okay. Well, looks like you figured it out. He looks pretty damn good. So has he been giving linebackers trouble? That's my question.
Yes.
That's where I get concerned. If it's Troy Dye and Ivan Pace, shit. That's what I'll be like, shit. If Jordan Hicks can come back, I'm cool with it. I don't mind Metellus coming up and helping out as well, but I can't think of it. Now that I say that, he'll have 140 yards. But
the thing is, like, in terms of what's happened, I think in terms of perception for the trade for Hockenson and the drafting of Laporta, I don't think this is misrepresenting what Lions fans feel about it. They feel like they have got an upgrade. And I know that Hockenson is a maybe top 5 tight end in the league. And Hockenson probably has slightly better receiving stats. But in terms of how the Lions identify in terms of run game being important, I think Laporta is a better blocker. And I don't think there's too much concern about that. Hockenson is a revolving door. But Hockenson has always been a very, I would say very reliable catcher. But he's not a reliable catcher. But he gets volume. And he is a reliable security blanket, even if he does drop the odd ball here or there. Not the best in Yak, although I think actually he's done better in Yak this year than he ever did with us.
Yes.
So it's been a bit of a shift. But it's the money then that changes. So like it's the trade capital, but also then we take the risk to draft someone. It could have gone one of many ways. You have a look at everyone that was drafted around Laporta, like Musgrave has been meh, and Tucker Kraft has come on recently, but he's been meh. But he's been worse than me. He's been bad. Kincaid has been really good, but no one could have expected this from Laporta.
Exactly,
really.
yeah.
So I don't know. Are you happy paying Hockenson a record tight end deal, even with the stats that he has?
Well, I think stats should be considered. Production on the field. When you get paid the bag like he got paid this year, and then you set the franchise record for receptions for tight ends, I think on the surface it's going to look like that makes obvious sense. My biggest thing for anyone that you pay like that is longevity. I don't care if your production slips a little bit. I just want you to be available. And he's gotten beat the fuck up this year, and he's just quietly just keeps on going out. So I justify it, yeah. It won't get in the way of Jefferson getting signed. A lot of our fan base was like, why the hell would you not sign Justin Jefferson in the offseason? And I'm like, you simple-brained little walnuts. He's going into year 4 or 5. Shut up. He's going to get paid. He's not getting paid this year. Oh, well, he's going to walk away. He's going to do the Stephon Diggs thing. He can't. He's under contract. What do you mean? If he doesn't interfere with Jefferson getting signed, I don't care. Whatever. And I love that my favorite part about the Hockenson thing overall was like, fans went back and forth like, oh, we robbed you robbed this, blah, blah. I don't care about any of that. I care that the team is happy and he's a good player. You guys got a great player. We got a great player. He fits perfectly for what we do.
It feels like a very few and far between win-win.
It's a very friendly trade, and that shouldn't be how the division stuff goes. But I love that he was so petty that he had to have like 0.1 more than the next paid tight end. That was the funniest thing. I was like, we're holding out over $100,000, really? Because over the season, the offseason, it was, I've got an ear infection. I have a illness. And it's like, bullshit. You're holding out because you want to get paid. And it was over the 17 or the 18.1, whatever it was. I was dying laughing. I was like, you imagine the pettiness that phone call had to be, but that's what agents do. I mean, that's
how they get paid.
I would be that petty if I had to play under Matt Patricia for the first couple of years of my
I feel so bad. This is why we can be friends. I see the suffering you guys went through, and I know that it hurt watching Stafford win in LA, but God, did I want that dude to win.
Oh, that didn't hurt. I don't think that hurt. I was so happy for him.
What hurt was probably us then having to listen to Kelly's screaming celebration.
Oh, well, yeah, that too. But, I mean, what hurts the most is just Green Bay being good. And, I mean, they looked like for a time, even a couple of weeks ago, like they might be coming up. And then how you drop games to the Giants and was it the Panthers last week?
Bucks.
No, Bucks.
Okay, the Bucks.
It's the Panthers this week.
I'm
here for Bryce Young.
I'm here for the Panthers' 2-game win streak, which hurts the Bears. I mean, that would just be beautiful. He's so good. Right. In the live chat, we're going to sign off here. Brent's got one more question. Replacing Hunter, draft pick or free agency. I'm guessing if you can't afford to replace him with a contract, draft pick has to be the way.
I'm going to stall for 1 second. Over the cap, and I will tell you, I forgot your name. I'm the most awful about that.
Don't worry. His name's Brent
I will-
with the question.
Brent. All right, Brent. I appreciate that. So going into 2024, the team cap space as it sits right now, they will shuffle some of this around. 37 million. I'm going to answer two questions that you didn't ask for, but this is why Kirk Cousins has to be a Viking. He will make $28.5 million with or without playing in a Vikings uniform next year. So you might as well keep him there. I would hate to pay him to beat us or win for someone else. 37 million is not a lot. There's 212 million liabilities in the cap total. 37 million is not a lot. That's maybe one good player. I think you should look for the draft, and maybe you can sign a rotational vet, God, who was it? Justin Houston just got released from Carolina. Get somebody on the last end. Yeah, somebody like that, bring them in just for a little last hoorah, especially if Flores plays. I'll know that they'll get something out of him. I really don't think Flores will go anywhere. I mean, for him to maintain this defense the way it is, probably they would take a step back with film and everything. But yeah, I'm gonna hate to watch Danielle Hunter. I've been such a fan of his because he's like drama free. Third round pick, and then when we signed him to a multi-year deal years ago, people are like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "You're not watching this guy? He was one of the youngest players ever to get to 50 sacks, like ever in the NFL." So, I predict he's probably gonna ring chase at this point. Maybe he might want to get paid because he has been kind of underpaid with us, but I don't know.
Oh, it'd be so sweet. I think we could afford him if we push some money into the future. I would love to have him. Opposite Hutch would be very tasty.
Oh, him, Hutch, and then Josh Pascal and Aleem inside.
Chef's kiss.
I don't like that at all. I mean,
sorry.
If I had to pick any team in the division, it would be you guys because I don't like the Bears very much, and I absolutely loathe the Packers. I couldn't imagine him being in a Green Bay uniform, but
who could? But Green Bay and Minnesota seem to trade players not trades, but like free agent wise, they seem to have traded players fairly frequently. So anyway, I really need to draw this to a close because I need to go. So in the live chat, thank you for being with us all this time and for the extra time. Good luck this weekend. See you on Boxing Day. For now, goodbye.
Bye.